Hello, welcome to Superpower Broadcasting and welcome to Ghoul Gang Rising. This is the weekly show where we dunk on the worst foreign policy takes of the previous week. And tonight we have a special guest joining us. That's Jäger de Pato. He's on here as Jäger de Wyoming. And of course, you can follow him over on YouTube. We got the link in the description below, as well as to be sure to follow my co-host here, Spooky Nukies, the protected class. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
Fantastic. Glad I could stay up and be on one.
Yeah, Wyoming Jäger.
That's always the compromise, is it not? Hey, I'd really love to come on the show. Okay, cool. Oh, so it starts at it starts at 11 p.m. Pacific time. Oh, maybe not. No, it's all good. Actually, real quick, just to give a little bit more background. I'm sure people, have seen Jäger on streams here before, but real quick, Jäger, maybe give a little rundown of your channel and some of the things you've talked about before.
Yeah, I do a bunch of different things on the channel. I'll talk football, I'll talk foreign policy, I'll dunk on some bad foreign policy takes as well, and also just some bad social.
Well, some bad social thing.
Well, you guys can't be everywhere at once.
Mm-hmm. That's true. We appreciate it. It means less videos for us to watch.
Yeah. And really just do it kind of as a thing for fun. And just like see some bad stuff on the internet and just try to respond to it. And then I of course enjoy football, so I'll watch some of that and try to comment on that. But I'm excited for tonight because supposedly in for a really good show.
And that was the promise.
Shout out to Dr. Zaus.
He's nice. He's a Zaus.
Dr. Zaus. He stayed up. He said he's got 2 white monster energies, like a true boomer ready to go. Yeah, let's go. Oh man. Zaus. Yeah. You don't like, we're done with Vaush. He's done. He's not the debate me bro he used to be. We got Zaus. And Zaus here tonight. So
you will witness the rise of Zaus, Twitch's next sweetheart. Watch it happen.
So with that, let's get into the show. We got some really dismal foreign policy takes to dunk on this evening. So now I haven't actually seen any of these videos, but I've seen the headlines, bro. I've read the headlines. And they're already pretty bad. So
in this case, or in the case of many of these, I wouldn't blame you for just reading the headline and saying, "Yeah, I get it. I don't need to hear the rest." But that's not how we do things around here. We go through. We cover it as thoroughly as possible, and we deal with it that way. So there was one, not so bad right off the bat. I think this is a good get your toe in the pool type of video. The title of this video is Boris Johnson in plea to stop China, quote, Cold War as he touches down at NATO summit. And we're actually, for the sake of memes, let's start this video at the 420 mark.
420, here we go.
Quite. I didn't mean for it to happen that way. It just happened, okay?
Oh, man.
Very much, sir.
I've had hair like Boris Johnson in the past, so I can respect it.
He doesn't even... When he was walking to the stage, the wind was blowing it around. He tried to pat it down, and then he just gave up. He was like, whatever.
Working on today. Thank
you. Yeah, no, StreamYard's not a happy camper.
Oh, we're gonna drag StreamYard's kicking and screaming through the rest of the show.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's
At least you can't blame it on the Wyoming internet this time.
That's right.
Damn it, the one scapegoat.
Thank you all very much, sir. I think that China is as I've said many times, a gigantic fact in our lives and a new strategic consideration for NATO, which after all has spent so much of its time in the last 72 years thinking about the Soviet Union, then of course the former Soviet Union, the various security threats posed from that area. But I think when it comes to China, you've got to, I don't think anybody around the table today wants to descend into a new Cold War with China.
Okay, we're already stopping it. We're already stopping it. The Cold War happened whether we wanted it or not. It's already underway. Like, are we supposed to believe here that the Communist Party in Beijing, they're totally cool with the West? They're totally cool with not trying to take over Eurasia and eventually the world. And it was just the pesky people in the West, like Trudeau, that wanted a Cold War, and Biden that wanted a Cold War. Is that what we're supposed to believe? Because that doesn't really seem to be what's going on. It seems to be one-sided aggression, one-sided manipulation, one-sided screwing over everybody else coming from communist China.
Yeah, and you can just look at Taiwan for that. I mean, China just flies military planes right over Taiwan, and Taiwan, of course, has to fend them off, costing them a bunch of money. Then you look at the South China Sea. Like, China is a big aggressor in their region.
Yes.
It's just a border dispute, bro. It's just a border dispute.
And here's the thing. Just the other day, they flew nuclear-capable bombers into the Taiwanese airspace. And yet that's not that provocative. But when I suggest, and I've made videos in the past calling for the United States to station nuclear weapons in Taiwan to guarantee Taiwanese sovereignty, people have told me that would spark a Cuban Missile Crisis and that could trigger a nuclear war. But they get to fly nuclear capable aircraft into Taiwanese airspace, and that's just their sphere of influence, bro. That's basically what the narrative is at this point. But I'm the warmonger. I'm the guy who wants to start World War III. So
always that double standard, isn't there? No, it's just absurd. This is the kind of rhetoric that we've been seeing from pretty much the bulk of the Western leaders. It's this unwillingness, because obviously when it comes to NATO, yeah, he's right to say that there's this focus on Russia, but and it's not to take away from that, but there needs to be some multitasking happening here. I know that's kind of spooky too. That almost became a meme in recent times. You can't multitask. You can't focus on more than one thing. You need to direct all your efforts toward one problem, tunnel vision. No, Russia is not the only aggressor in the world. Amazingly enough, China is an enormous aggressor. I'm tired of them being referred to as a competitor. I'm tired of them not being taken seriously as a nuclear threat. That is all garbage. Absolute garbage.
yes, I would agree with that, but we can continue with the video.
I don't think that's where people are, but I think people see challenges. They see things that we have to manage together, but they also see opportunities. And I think that what we need to do is do it together. It's a very, very successful alliance, as I never tire of telling you. It's the most successful military alliance in history. It's done a very good job of protecting the people of this continent, and it's going to continue to do so.
There you go. So I believe that's all I have to say about China. But again, that's kind of the mood at the moment around that issue, and it's a bit depressing, to say the least.
Yeah,
so,
and you look at kind of like the Overton window kind of shifting, because normally like new Cold War in China is something you hear of these fringe leftist groups like the Gray Zone. But now you got a foreign leader in the UK, probably one of the US's best allies, suggesting that there's a Cold War between us and China. Like, this kind of thing needs to be fought, like China needs to be fronted, but we don't necessarily have to get into Cold War politics where we go into Vietnam again. We just got to set up deterrence there so China doesn't expand their empire, especially in Taiwan and the South China Sea.
That's imperialism.
Yeah, no, I think the Cold War is already underway. Like, I mean, again, the point about a Cold War is that it's not a hot conflict. It's a conflict waged by other means, economic espionage, military espionage, proxy wars in cases like you alluded to the Vietnam, for example. But it doesn't necessarily have to include proxy wars. There hasn't been a proxy war between Communist China and the West yet. It is possible to win this without actually having a proxy war, I believe, but it doesn't mean that we're not in a state of Cold War tension, as I see it. I think calling it a Cold War is good. I think that people need to wake up to the threat that's there. I think a lot of people intuitively know that they've been screwed over by China, that they got the short end of the deal with them, and it wouldn't be that difficult to get people on board with referring to it as a Cold War. I could see that being a politically popular stance because everybody already knows that they've basically screwed us over economically, and a bunch of corporatists and hacky politicians were happy to abet that process. So, but what do you guys think about that?
Well, China does attack us pretty much on a daily basis with cyber attacks. China,
Yes.
Russia, they send these cyber attacks trying to get viruses, trying to get worms, trying to get malware into our system to faulty some of the defenses. And some of that's actually really scary, especially when you look at what the United States and Israel was able to do to the nuclear reactors in Iran. If they can get something capable to the United States, it can turn off pipelines, it can turn off any manufacturing. Like, there's a lot of risk for some of these cyber attacks that are going on, and it has to be meant with some sort of deterrent so you don't try these sort of things.
Yeah, I think deterrence is key. It's the concept of peace through strength, right? And so before we move on to the next video, I want to ask you guys here, because we got Jäger here. It's normally just me and Reece, but we got Jäger here as well. And Jäger follows a lot of world politics pretty closely. What do you guys both think of the idea of the West, America, even say the UK, if they wanted to be proactive, stationing a few nuclear weapons, even tactical nuclear weapons on Taiwan? Do you think that that would basically be another Cuban Missile Crisis, or do you think that that would guarantee Taiwanese sovereignty and actually make that area more stable?
And I think, go ahead, Reece. I'll let you go first.
No, well,
Oh no, we can let Jäger go. Jäger's
yeah, no. You're the guest. The guest, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay, I think at some point we are going to have to, whether it's going to be now or whether it's going to be a couple of years in the future. And the reason being is China's doing these you said, the nuclear bomber, sending it over there. But China's goal is to eventually take and overcome Taiwan. So putting a deterrent there will stop them from some of their actions. And so I think it would be a good thing for Taiwan's sovereignty, but also to put kind of an end to what China's already doing to Taiwan, where they're trying to bleed them out of money to constantly send out their air force to take care of these Chinese threats that keep coming into their airspace.
Good answer.
Yeah, what do you say, Reece?
I feel like I've talked about it before, but I'm not remembering. I do support that. But again, the timing is key here too. This is a good point to do it. I think that the comparison to the Cuban Missile Crisis is ridiculous, hyperbolic, and because that was a case when you had nuclear weapons stationed up against the American frontier. Very different situation, very different nuclear capabilities. America during the height of the Cold War versus China right now. Yeah, they have a more sizable arsenal than North Korea, but it's not that. It's not like that. And I truly don't believe that they would risk a nuclear confrontation over a strip of land like Taiwan now. Let's go one step further. Let's put Taiwan in NATO. Let's really spook people.
Yeah, well, that raises a question. What do you guys think about another version of NATO that's centered around the Asia Pacific? Or do you think that NATO should just be enlarged and you just change the name from North Atlantic Treaty Organization to say like Western treaty organization or something.
I think you just call it NATO and just add them in, because there's many countries in NATO that don't do jack. So like Liechtenstein, kind of these smaller countries in Central Europe, you know what, just add them into NATO, because Russia could still technically be a threat there in the Pacific Ocean, because they do touch the Pacific Ocean. So just add them in to NATO as it's existing, because they may actually get up to that 2% threshold as well.
Yeah. Well, then that's the thing. I believe Taiwan's higher than your typical NATO country. I'm just going to check that right now. Taiwan military
I'd imagine so.
because they have a pretty sizable economy, but their military budget is
No, they're lax, man. They don't. They're just sitting on their thumbs over there. They don't care.
Yeah, and the other country with China is India, that we should develop kind of more relations, because India does not like China, and develop more relations, because I know they had the border skirmish last year. So developing those relations would be a great thing with India in defense against China.
Mm-hmm. Look at us, spreading friendship all across the globe.
I mean, you could look at the countries. You could look at Taiwan. You could look at Japan, South Korea. You know, we do have decent relation with Indonesia as well. Like, we could have a whole block there in Asia around China.
Yeah, so Taiwan's military expenditure is actually only $13 billion, and their economy is $682 billion. So it's around 2%. It's actually lower than I had thought, but it is what it is. So
that could be incentivized.
Yeah. I would have figured they'd be spending a considerable amount more. South Korea spends a decent amount more, but yeah. Anyway, that's that. So
I just wanted to point out before we move on that this warhawk imperialist Jäger de Pato suggested that China should be surrounded with military bases on all sides. That's aggression, man. It's really aggressive. I don't think they'll like that.
Doesn't matter what they like or not. What matters is the sovereignty of these other nations, and like they're definitely scared of China.
China owns the world, man. That's their border dispute. They keep stretching back the borders. Very malleable borders.
We've got a guy that we're probably going to take a look at later in the show that would refer to Jäger as a neocon ghoul for saying that.
You know,
that's interesting. Because I'm not even a neocon, so that's interesting.
Well, now you are. Welcome to the club, buddy.
That's what they all say. Like that's what Tulsi said. That's what Bernie said, right?
The neocons and neolibs.
Because they're the same thing.
They always agree. They just can't. You can't separate them, man. It's like, salt and pepper. Neocons and neolibs. Anyway, this is actually a good follow-up. Now that we just watched Bojo, let's watch the man who could have been the Prime Minister of the UK. This is a clip of Jeremy Corbyn talking about NATO. Yeah, I know. Look, I know. This is a war crime, what I'm doing to you. I'll face my punishment later.
Quick final questions. That apparently calls for your former adversary Theresa May to be the next head of NATO.
Yeah, no, StreamYard's not a happy camper tonight. I don't know what it is. It's been fine. It's ironic. It used to have a problem if we would stop it halfway through and then start it again. Now it has a problem with us starting it, but it's fine if we take a break halfway through.
StreamYards is extremely battered and abused from our weeks of tormenting it with these videos. I understand. I get it.
I'm just imagining over at their headquarters, it just shows like all the IT problems that they've got, and just Ghoul Gang Rising is the #1 issue for them. Like, can they just end that podcast already? Why do they have to react to 10 different clips per week? But yeah.
Those ghouls at it again.
Those ghouls. That's right.
Support her candidacy?
Why?
We'll start it over.
2 quick final questions. There apparently calls for your former adversary Theresa May to be the next head of NATO. Would you support her candidacy?
Why on earth would she become head of NATO? She hasn't any great record in that area other than being prime minister.
Well, it does seem to be former prime ministers become secretary generals of NATO, don't they?
It's the first I've heard of it. I would be surprised if she takes it on, quite honestly.
And
If they could offer it to me, it'd be very different.
that would be very different.
Come on.
Dude, he's so salty. He's so salty.
What a
dude.
narcissist. Jesus. Well, it'd be a different story if they offered it to me. His host here says, why are they saying that? Why are they saying that about Theresa May? Well, former prime ministers, they'll usually sometimes go on to be head of NATO. And he's like, right. What if I was offered the position?
Yeah. He's like, well, he would say he's a future prime minister. So it's even better, right?
Is that the new Bernie can still win? Corbyn can still win?
I was going to say he can still win.
He
bro.
can still win.
No, dude. You got here's the thing about Corbyn. In case you guys haven't been paying attention, he wants to get rid of Trident, for example. That's just one of his many cringe foreign policy takes. He's also a cuck to the Russians, but he wants to abolish Trident. In other words, get rid of the UK's deterrent that they basically, spent well over $1 trillion over the years developing their nuclear capabilities. Oh, let's just get rid of it. Like as if you could just get rid of it for a few years and then go back. I got news. It's very hard to rebuild your nuclear weapons after you get rid of them. Nobody's ever done that. It's not something that would be very easy. So if the UK gives up its nukes, they're never getting them back. So,
hey man, you sound very violent. You sound like you want a world with more nukes in it. You sound spooky with those nukes. What's up with that?
Now the funny thing is, here's the funny thing, right? I'm actually against nuclear proliferation. In an ideal world, the UK wouldn't even have nukes. The only country that would have nukes would be the United States. But we don't live in an ideal world. How is that fair,
man? How is that fair?
Because it doesn't matter what's fair.
Yeah, because they're America.
It matters who's going to be the moral superior country.
Yeah. Well, and the UK is good. Like, the UK is good. It's not like I'm worried about them having nukes or anything. It's just, as long as you have 2 nuclear powers in the world, that sets up a potential fissure down the road that could lead to a war. Whereas if America had the nuclear monopoly, you'd never have any challengers. So you'd have a permanent world order in line with the United States. So, basically a Republican world, that kind of stuff. So democracy, that kind of shit.
But by that point, we'll hopefully have moved on to Jewish space lasers.
They already started a wildfire in California, right? That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said.
That's what happened in Notre Dame, actually.
Yeah, that's true. So, actually, you know what started the sun? Mexican Jewish space laser. That's what started the sun.
What started the sun?
That's why it's so hot.
That's a hot take.
That's a nuclear hot take. There we go.
Ooh.
Okay, let's listen to the rest of what Tanky Jeremy has to say.
Comrade Corbyn.
Would you accept it if they?
Well, providing they would understand.
Dismantle it from the inside.
Well,
yeah, that's called a fifth column.
This guy even knows, that's what you do, right? If you were in charge, you wouldn't be leading, you'd be destroying. Okay, good to know.
Mycroft says your new icon looks like a Pokeball. It is literally a Pokeball, right?
Oh yeah, that's what it was supposed to be. So, yay! Look, it came across.
Well, no, we were talking about Pokemon that one time. The only thing is, if I recall, doesn't a Pokemon or a Pokeball rather have like a green strip across, or a gray strip? Like, I'm gonna look up a Pokeball right now. I actually forget what it looks
This is extremely important information, people.
Oh no! It can be black, but it can also be gray depending on how it's colored. So I was just thinking of a gray one. No. But I guess the classic one is black, gray.
Yeah, man.
Black.
Don't
Depends on the lighting, yeah.
don't question my knowledge of the lore. Okay.
There we go.
I know.
And they would understand my wish that there should be an assertion of human rights, environmental standards and values, and a reduction in military rhetoric and the Cold War with Russia.
Okay.
Exactly what you said, Kevin. Exactly what you didn't see the clip, but you predicted the future.
No, that's so great. I want to replay that.
They would understand my wish that there should be an assertion of human rights, environmental standards and values, and a reduction in military rhetoric and the Cold War with Russia.
Okay.
So there's a couple of problems. Like if he cares about like the environment, like Russia would be like an enemy number one. China would be enemy number one. But as far as fossil fuel usage in Europe, Russia would be enemy number one. And so like if he cares about the environment.
Not just usage, they sell that shit to Germany now. If you've been following the Nord Stream 2 stuff, for example, right? They're trying to pimp that stuff out across Europe. So they're not just a huge consumer. They also are a huge supplier, too. They're the biggest supplier to Europe.
Yeah, so like, and then military, I guess, against Russia, well, I guess Ukraine can just go. You know, Georgia can be consumed. Like, all these countries, because we're going to reduce this military presence, military force. And then we have to rely on Turkey, that great nation, to be the one to save us all. Like, I have no idea how these guys live in this world.
With the thick dude.
The thick dude. He's thick. THICC.
We're talking about Erdogan? Thick dude? That's
the one and only, my friend.
That's what Alex R told me. He's a thick dude, and he doesn't like you seculars and gays.
He has very defined stances on those issues, for sure.
We are very fortunate Jeremy Corbyn lost his party.
Oh, thank goodness.
He's just he's just a political commentator now, just like George Galloway.
And Tulsi Gabbard. Tiki Tulsi. Yes, that George Galloway.
He's just sitting there musing on, what if I was asked, what would the world be like? Everything would fall into place if I was asked to be head of NATO and I was allowed to destroy it from within.
Well, here's the thing. If they're going to go and get Jeremy Corbyn to be the head of NATO, why not just follow that to the logical conclusion and bump Corbyn and just get Putin to be the head of NATO and make it faster? So why not invite Putin to do it then? Because Putin, at least, they're both mask off, but at least Putin would just be like, yeah, no, it's abolished, it's over. So, whereas Corbyn would be like, oh, well, we're slowly going to dismantle it from within. Putin would just be like, okay, I'm the head. Okay, it's done.
See, I disagree on that. I think Putin would try to turn NATO against the United States.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Because
don't worry, NATO's not disbanded. Oh, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, no, it's just weaponized against you. Oh, never mind.
Putin, he's a piece of shit, but he's probably one of the most brilliant leaders that Russia's ever had.
Oh yeah, he's the smartest leader in the world today, in my view, and it's not even that close. So,
extremely brilliant. But at the same time, we have to defend against that because. Yeah, he is very intelligent, very calculated, takes these risks because he knows what the results are the response is going to be from the West.
Yeah. So, does anybody else have anything to add on this, or should we move on to the next video?
I think it's I guess something that's obligated to be said, but Jeremy Corbyn's an anti-Semite. I think we brought into every conversation about Jeremy Corbyn
and an outright terrorist defender. So, and praiser too. So.
UK dodged a bullet with that one for sure. So big up to any of the UK listeners we happen to have who voted for anyone else, but obviously, preferably for someone viable like Bojo. Say what you will about the guy. we just reviewed what he said, but I mean, come on, you can't get much worse than Corbyn.
Well, the problem with Boris Johnson is that he's weak on Russia and weak on China. The problem with Jeremy Corbyn is that he's in love with Russia and in love with China. So,
yeah, compared to Corbyn, Boris Johnson is like Reagan on Russia.
Mm-hmm. Unironically, yes. Unironically, yes. So, yeah, and of course, our friends in Hamas. That's exactly it. That's Corbyn. Corbyn's gone and laid wreaths at their martyrs' tombs. He's embarrassing. I mean, how do you like he's actually worse than Ilhan Omar. Like, it's
quite
crazy.
Defeat.
It's crazy.
So this is a little bit of a different flavor. This is a clip from Twitter. This is former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo doing some historical revisionism on Trump's opposition to Russia.
But, Mr. Secretary, let's look back at the Trump record. Under President Trump, the administration didn't stop Russia from completing, and they continued during the Trump administration to build the Nord Stream pipeline. By the end of the administration, it was 90% completed, and President Trump never condemned Russia for the poisoning of Alexei Navalny or his arrest, and both of those happened on his watch.
Well, Chris, you said it yourself. They didn't complete the pipeline. We'd imposed real sanctions on the ships that were doing the construction, the insurers that were underwriting it. We made clear that that pipeline was not going to be completed. It would not have been completed had we had 4 more years. I'm very, very confident of that. And with respect to human rights, we take
my 4 more years.
Hey man, you just needed 4 more years. Why not 12 more years?
That is politics boiled down right there. I could be doing more. I could actually be helping. I could be protecting our national security. But give me 4 more years. I'll deal with that later.
You know what that's called? That's called a cope. That's what we call it.
No,
that's what we call a cope over here.
No, this is a cope.
He's just dodging the question and trying to make himself look good. That's kind of Mike Pompeo's thing. He's kind of always been a snake in the grass.
Oh, he was a loyalist to the end. He wasn't like John Bolton. He wanted to stick around. He wanted to keep his job. But here's the thing: you're not doing your job anymore. Like you're not under the thumb. You can actually be honest now. But no, you're gonna stick by it for the sake of your reputation, I suppose. Now this is ridiculous. I was looking into this and kind of revisiting some older stories. So this was probably one of the most embarrassing moments of the Trump administration, where there were efforts, there was legislation to combat that pipeline, but it was also packaged alongside a minor legislation that was seen as too woke about renaming some of the military bases that were named after the Confederate generals. Trump didn't like that, so he said no, and he vetoed it. What a fucking... What do you even say, man? What do you even say to something like that?
Sad
it's
low
sad.
Energy.
It's crazy to even think that happened.
They were allowed to continue the construction of the pipeline, but it wasn't going to be completed if they got 4 more years. But they were allowed to continue the instruction throughout. It's like it was going to be completed whether or not they got another 4 more years. He's just 100% full of shit.
I have another quote here from Trump about the Navalny thing. So when he's being asked about this, okay, so he said, "It is interesting." I'm not even going to do it in his voice. No, not worth the effort, man. "It is interesting that everybody's always mentioning Russia, and I don't mind you mentioning Russia, but I think probably China at this point is a nation that you should be talking about much more. So yeah, there you go. Yada yada yada." And he was denying the poisoning.
See, that's the thing. A lot of conservative rhetoric lately has gone in that direction, and the problem is China is an increasing threat. but so is Russia. Like, that's the problem. Why not both?
Russia is a more established militaristic threat, though.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, is that they're in a position where they've got a limited number of years left while they can still shit disturb the world. Whereas China is playing a longer run game. China's going to be a bigger threat in the second half of this century for sure, but Russia's the priority right now. So this move to focus on China that you see from people going up to the Pato, Matt Gaetz, for example, it's done not because they want to be particularly hawkish on China, though a lot of people on their base would actually get behind being pretty tough on China.
Mhm.
It's done because Trump owed a lot of money to the Russians, so he wanted to take the heat off of Russia. So it's disingenuous concern about China in that respect. Because here's the proof. Here's the proof. They want to leave Afghanistan. So how do you fight China by giving them a vastly strategically important Central Asian country to rule over, basically?
Also in that process, giving them Kurdistan.
Oh yeah, because Kurdistan is in central eastern Afghanistan, right by China.
Exactly. Everyone knows. Everyone knows their history.
That's what Joe Lewis knows. He did the research, man.
You know what that reminds me was your let's say heated appearance last night on the hippy dippy roundtable with a critically thinking veteran on his, and I pointed this out in the post show, but you know, when it got to that section about the no issue that we can't talk about on YouTube, and they were talking about my China and my commies, because he's like a big time libertarian. He's going on about, yeah, we go get them commies, and it's like, you're a libertarian. What are you gonna do? Like, what are you what's your policy? Like, you're not gonna go get the commies.
No, but I know his policy because the last time, well, not the last time, but the time before the last time that I was on a hippy dippy panel, like about a month ago, it was me and Joe Lewis was there. And CTV was there again. And CTV was in support of leaving Afghanistan. So how does he want to go and get the commies? By handing them Afghanistan. Like, you often hear this line from conservatives and stuff, and a lot of progressive anti-war people, of how, well, the only reason America's there is because there's $1 trillion of minerals and stuff, bro. So let's help China and leave. Or not, let's get tough on China and leave so we can focus on China. Like, so they admit that the minerals are there, and they admit they want to get tough on China, but then they want to give the minerals that they're talking about over to China, basically. Because if America leaves Afghanistan, who do you think is going to go in there immediately? It's probably not going to be Russia. It's probably going to be China, the country
Even
that they
Joe
claim they want to
Lewis
get
knew
tough
that.
on.
Yeah.
Well, no. Joe Lewis, the difference is Joe Lewis supports China. CTV doesn't support China. He's just an idiot. So,
Yeah, because Pakistan's probably going to be the country that's going to go in, but Pakistan's one of their biggest trade partners is China. So by extension, it's going to be China that's going to be extracting some of those minerals, provided they can deal with the Taliban threat. That's
the thing. Pakistan owes money to China. China's building the deepest water port in the world in southwestern Pakistan, and that's a huge part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Pakistan's actually a cornerstone of their Belt and Road Initiative. They're pretty close allies, and they hate India, and they don't like the U.S. being in Afghanistan, and Pakistan supports the Taliban. So, great going. So to all these conservatives that want to leave Afghanistan, spare me your rhetoric about wanting to get tough on China. Some of them do genuinely want to get tough on China. They just have no idea about geography and geopolitics. But the big figures like Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump and everything, why are they doing that? It's because they want to help out Russia. They don't actually really want to do anything about China. So that's the problem.
And it also goes back to kind of a misunderstanding how the world economy works. Because I think, if we just focus on America first, that everything's going to be hunky-dory. but it's a global economy and you have to compete with China on a global stage. And there are certain geopolitical moves that you have to make to ensure your stake is in the ground as far as a global economy. One of them, of course, is like the strait between UAE and Iran, but Afghanistan, the Belt and Road, blocking the Belt and Road to go into Europe. Like there are different moves that you can make to combat China, but they would rather just, hey, let's just focus on America first. Let's just look the other way for all these foreign conflicts, just focus on America first. Well, they don't realize that we get 50% of our products from China, Indonesia, Philippines. Like you have to preserve these trade routes. You have to have these trade partners because if China takes those over, then all of a sudden everything's expensive in America.
Well, and I think a big factor in it is kind of what Mycroft is talking about here. Tough on China is arming the Indians. I agree with that. I've been saying for months, well, actually, like over a year on this show, that what we need to do is basically close down shop in China, move the factories over to India, and bring a lot of the more important stuff back to Canada and the United States, and have better military deals with India. Because right now, India, for the longest time, has been getting their stuff from Russia. Imagine if they got their stuff from the US instead, because they're basically a natural ally of the West. They're a democracy. They're under threat from Islamofascism to the northwest and communism to the northeast. So, India's base. So,
definitely, you touched on that point, getting them away from Russian weaponry because we have the better weaponry.
mm-hmm.
And so getting them there for their fight, not only against China, but also against Pakistan in their conflict, is they're becoming a better friend to India.
Yeah. But we can continue with this clip.
A backseat to no one. I heard Secretary Blinken talk about the work they're doing to try and convince the Europeans to stand alongside us on human rights violations in China and the work that they've done defending human rights against Russian abuses. We were tough there too, Chris. I'm proud of the work we did there. It was good work. It was serious work, and it made a difference.
Yeah, not specifically on the genocide though. Not really. That was very infamously given a passing criticism at the final hour. But
because
and not to
Trump
mention all
started,
the go ahead.
Just because Trump started 0 wars during his presidency, so everything was great.
Ah, yes, 0 wars.
Well,
No.
he did the Soleimani thing, so that was basically World War III, right? That's what Shuan Head said.
Well, he also
Syria
he struck the Assad regime in Syria. Like, yeah, he had other foreign policy moves that they conveniently gloss over. But
those were all world wars.
For the most part, he was just an isolationist. But yeah, he did have some foreign policy moves where I assume somebody else was like, hey, Trump, you should do this. And he's like, okay, do that. Like, I don't think anything, like if he thought it would give him negative press, he wouldn't do it. But if somebody could sell it to him, I think he would do it.
Yeah, basically. And thankfully, we don't have to deal with that anymore. But now he had so much questionable rhetoric on Xi Jinping, which is not surprising considering his rhetoric on other despots. But no, it was again. So it just is another example to point people toward that this kind of like this animosity toward China from what was and still is in large parts the Trump base. It feels fake. It feels forced. It feels artificial. It just feels like, using some Cold War some Cold War era language and basically, let's wrap this up on a flag. But are they actually going to do anything about it? No. It's just we're right wing. Communism is left wing. We're against the left wing. We're against communism. And it's like, okay, no one here is a fan of communism. Maybe it should be a bit deeper than that, though. Maybe it should be a bit more well thought out than that at the end of the day.
Maybe. But
just maybe.
You posted Jim's comment up there in the chat.
Well, Yeah, Jim was asking us here. He says, what is your view on recognizing Jammu and Kashmir? Personally, I think the West should recognize all the territory to India in order to counter Pakistan and China. So I agree with that. But what do you guys think?
I think Kashmir should be its own country.
Okay.
And I think Jammu should get their right to vote on their independence or not. You know, it kind of goes back to the UN thing where, you know, the certain territories they can claim whether they want to be autonomous or their own country. But I think Kashmir is more of something that wants to be its own country rather than being a part of India or Pakistan. But if it's something where it's like, well, it's has autonomy, but it's under India, I would agree with that as well. But for everything I've read about Kashmir, it kind of wants to be its own thing.
Okay, and what do you think, Reece?
I wouldn't say I have much of an informed opinion on it. I largely agree with that, though. Like, obviously, anything you can do to recognize territories under threat from Pakistan, yeah, no, they should be aided. And I largely agree with what we were saying about India earlier too. Well, there should be more manufacturing moved there. There should be a bolstering of them militarily. And they're a democracy. I understand they're not perfect. I get that. I understand that there's a lot of internal problems that people are going to point to, but I think in time those can be pretty, expediently flushed out given the right guidance.
Yeah, and I think we missed a golden opportunity with India as well because they ran into that crisis with COVID. We could have swooped in and then been the savior of kind of India with, hey, here's all these vaccines. We're going to help you out. You're going to help us against China. We're going to give you the vaccines. We're going to help your population and then get a good relationship. You know, we sent them some, but I think we could have done a little bit more there, helping India out with their crisis with COVID.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think India is basically like here's the thing. India is a better representation of the Western fight against terrorism and communism and upholding democracy. Albeit, yeah, they've got corruption issues and they've got bureaucracy issues and stuff. They're better at that than so-called NATO allies like Hungary and Turkey. So, you know, India's been neglected, and I don't blame them for still buying stuff from Russia. What else are they going to do? Basically, the West hasn't really stepped up and seized upon the opportunity because they have to defend themselves somehow. So,
yeah, and we've kind of done the opposite in the past too because we have funded Pakistan in the past to try to get better relationships with Pakistan. Because
well, that was right. Yeah, because Pakistan was a Cold War partner with America and India was a Cold War partner with Moscow. So, you know.
Yeah, but even with the Afghanistan conflict, we had to give some concessions to Pakistan to even access Afghanistan. So, I'm surprised India has as good a relationship as they do right now, given our history with them. But we had a golden opportunity to strengthen that, and we should still look to strengthen that relationship because there are a lot of immigrants from India in this country.
Yeah, and we got a lot of immigrants from India and Canada as well. And India is a really resourceful country. They have, I believe, the cheapest cost to put up a satellite into orbit. They're like they have really good engineering, and yet they're able to do stuff that would cost NASA like 10 times as much money to do. Basically, they're pretty what would you call it, innovative in terms of working with not the biggest budget out there. They can actually get a lot done. They're pretty resourceful. So
we can't send them the vaccines because there will be outrage because there's a pothole in America somewhere that's unattended.
Yeah, can't do anything. Can't do anything because
that's what all the headlines would be. It'd be like Joe Biden abandons the American people and invests in more foreign aid.
Yeah, foreign aid is spooky, man.
A lot of people don't like that shit. But anyway,
that's why we need a libertarian in charge because potholes should fix themselves.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next video. What do we have up next?
Okay. I think we're gonna have to do an alert. It's not a
Okay.
bootlicker alert. This is a
Concern.
concern alert.
Here we go. That smiley face, man. That was always
That felt like I was back in church.
very, very peaceful, you know, a lot of serenity. I
Thoughts
saw
and
this.
prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, my dude. I saw this particular video, and I knew, yeah, we're covering that on the show. The title of this video is UN. Already, you know it's bad. UN calls for halt of weapons to Myanmar, or as Mike Flynn would say, Myanmar.
Myanmar. So here's the thing. When you say concern alert, I already knew it was going to be the UN video. Like I knew we were going to be doing the UN one because I'm like, oh, because when I saw that we were going to have a UN video on the lineup, I'm like, oh, got to remember, can't miss. We have to issue a concern alert before that one, but you were already on the ball. So there we go.
The United Nations called for a halt to the flow of weapons to Myanmar on Friday. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged the military to respect the November election results and release political detainees, including leader Aung San Suu Kyi. The UN General Assembly adopted a resolution.
Look, they said it. They wagged their finger. They urged it. They asked nicely, what more do you want, world?
Oh, man.
It's just, and believe it or not, it gets worse.
Oh, it's the UN, of course. It's always another surprise.
After watering down an initial draft with stronger language, calling for an arms embargo. This comes several months after the military seized power in a coup on February 1st, calling the election a fraud, despite international observers saying...
Hold on. So they had, this is the story. They had an initial resolution that was calling for an arms embargo, not enforcing an arms embargo, mind you, calling for one. But that was seen as being too triggering. Oh, my language, my aggressive language. You need to tone that down. The tone police are here. Oh, we don't like that. So now the resolution is some watered down garbage where it's like, please, could you not, send weapons to this oppressive government? Please, pretty please, sugar on top. Unbelievable, hacky, bureaucratic bullshit, man. They're trash. Fuck the UN. We need to cover the UN every show because they need it. They're so bad.
Amen.
Amen. That like it sounds like it's made up. It sounds like an Onion story. Oh, we had to roll back the language because it was upsetting. You're the UN. You're an international organization. This is how you're operating. Okay. We're talking about a real issue here. We're talking about an issue in which a military, much like Mike Flynn wanted to do, took power, ignored the outcomes of a democratic election, took power, and is holding an entire nation hostage. And they have powers like China rooting them on all the way, sending them weapons. Oh, yeah, that's what they need, more weapons to gun down more innocent passerbys and protesters. Good for them. But we're concerned about the language. Give me a fucking break.
They're cerned, bro. They're cerned.
Very cerned.
It's funny because every time I hear about the UN or anything, I think of like, that the big particle accelerator now. You guys know about CERN over in Europe? They're CERN, bro. Those particles, man, they're CERN, bro.
There's a meme waiting to happen.
Yeah, if you're relying on the UN to do something militarily, I think you're putting your faith in the wrong place. Like it should be a multilateral organization that goes in there, at least on a peacekeeping operation. But yeah, the UN doesn't have a military. It's designed just to be a place where people come and just try to talk and diplomatically hash things out. But yeah, if you're looking at them as a military kind of organization for them to actually do something in these, they're not going to, because that's not the way they're designed. They're designed just to get countries to come together, talk, try to solve things. But other than that, like, they're not going to step in. They may do sanctions every once in a while, but they're not going to step into an actual conflict.
Not since the 50s. But
Yeah.
you know what's funny is that clip with Jeremy Corbyn where he was saying, like, oh, if I was head of NATO, I would tone, we'd have to tone down the militaristic rhetoric. That's actually happening here, where the UN, of all places, oh, your rhetoric is too militaristic. We got to tone that down, man. Whoa, UN, you're getting crazy over here. An arms embargo? First off, that is crazy. How are you going to enforce that? Why? Like, you know what? Here's a joke for you. Mock UN is more consequential than the actual UN. Like,
yeah, you're talking about the model UN, right? Because I used to do model UN for like 6 years when I was younger, and it teaches you about the UN, that kind of stuff, and everything. The UN, I mean, I've always said the biggest misconception about the UN is that it was great and then it got corrupted somewhere along the line. No. Ever since 1945, it was founded. It was conceived as a compromise between good and evil. It was basically a compromise between the West and Stalin. And the only time in history it's actually acted in any way as a world police force was in 1950 when the North invaded the South in Korea. And the only reason why that was able to ever happen was because the Soviets had boycotted it. And they learned their lesson and they never did that again. So ever since that time, the UN has been complete and utter trash. So, I mean, think about it. That was an exception. It was designed to be cringe, basically.
There's a shirt waiting to happen, designed to be cringe.
That's right. No, that's right. It was born to be cringe, dude. So
that would sell out of the Kevin Cassidy store or the Spooky
we got to have
store.
merch going on. We got to have merch going on. Like Kraut just started a merch store. He was saying he's got a merch store going on that artists are free to contribute to, and they get 60% of the commission if they sell merch through his store. So that's pretty swaggy. So Kraut's got a merch store coming up. We got to get a merch store going on here at some point. Like Concerned Bro and stuff like that. That one, there are better memes out there for sure. Like Hot Gang and all that kind of stuff. But
capitalism is a great
I would walk
thing.
around with that Concerned shirt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Concern. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers. So anyway, we can continue with this.
The ballot was fair. 9 Southeast Asian countries called for the language to be removed. Instead, they agreed on calling on member states to, quote, prevent the flow of arms into Myanmar. Myanmar's UN ambassador Chor Mo-tun said the decision was long overdue.
We are so disappointed that it took almost 3 months to adopt this watered-down resolution, even though it does not include many important points to save lives of the people in Myanmar.
The UN Special Envoy on Myanmar
doesn't include many points to actually save people on the ground. Yeah, that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point, my dude. That wasn't the point. It was finger wagging. It was finger wagging central. You wanted a peace task force to go in and actually protect the people. Oh, sorry, you're in the wrong business. You might want to call the Green Lantern Corps next time, bud. I love that. I love how they go to like, oh yes, finally it was ratified. And then the representative from Myanmar, he says, we're extremely disappointed it took 3 months to get a watered down garbage bill. A watered down garbage resolution that fails to address the major issues on the ground. Wow. Not coming from me, folks. It's not just me. It's not the crazy hawks. No, it's the people who actually have to deal with this every day, amazingly enough.
Also warned that the opportunity to reverse the military takeover is narrowing, and the risk of a large-scale civil war. The military have killed more than 860.
Yeah, StreamYard not happy with their thug military over in Myanmar.
But
Myanmar.
those are pretty cool uniforms.
No, they're pretty cool uniforms. That's true. That's true.
It was like a zebra effect, you know?
Yeah.
You get enough in a herd and it's like an optical illusion.
Have killed more than 860 people since the coup, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners.
Wait a minute.
Security-
We gotta go back. Bring it back like 15 seconds or so. There we go.
Also warned that the opportunity to reverse the military takeover is narrowing, and the risk of a large-scale civil war. The military have killed more than 860 people.
Okay, we've talked about that before.
Yeah, the risk of a civil war. As you've talked about before, a civil war would be preferable to the current status quo.
Yeah, they always say that. And then they said it. They said it about Syria. They say it about every situation like this. The risk of a civil war. A civil war would be preferable to this. Because at least in a civil war, people have a fucking fighting chance.
Yes.
They don't just get gunned down. Oh, I'm unarmed in this. We watched a video on the show not that long ago. Innocent people just walking by on the street. The military pull up, gun them down. They weren't military. They weren't militia, as far as we could tell. They weren't insurgents, and that would be wrong anyway. No, they were just innocent people minding their own business.
But Reece, you're the one who's like this insane anti-gun leftist, right? That's what they say about you.
For America, because I don't want my government taken over. See, that's the difference. No, I want them all to have guns because their government is crap. I want my government to stand because my government isn't it's not the junta government. It's not gunning people down in the streets. Oh, what about my George Floyd? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out. I was going to say that it was a disagreement between me and Reece, but yeah, this just points out like the right to bear arms is actually a good thing when you have a junta. But then again, the United States military is so badass that even with your AR-15, you're going to be no comparison to an F-15 or a drone strike, Predator drone strike. So yeah, but
yeah.
In these countries where civil conflict happens, like in Syria it happened, they started throwing rocks at the police. Like, yeah, the right to bear arms is a good thing, and we can disagree on kind of the American element of it, but yeah, some of these countries where, you know, they're only armed with rocks, and if the military takes over, normally the military rules the country, they're kind of left in that state where they can't really fight back because the military has all the weaponry.
Yeah, no, I get you. Again, it's an example of I don't support the same policies for every country necessarily. You know, this is a very different kind of situation where, yeah, people will say that. You know, I've especially seen a lot of rhetoric of that lately, where people will talk about one of the purposes of the Second Amendment originally in the U.S. was to fight against government tyranny. More so, let's just ignore more so to actually fight foreign threats, the threat of a foreign takeover. But that was always implicit to some degree. Now, while that is technically true, it's a bit alarming to hear people talking about in 2021. It's like, ooh, because basically when I hear stuff like that, and then there's any kind of, anarchist, or anti-government attack, yeah, thanks for being complicit with your rhetoric, essentially, is what I'm thinking. But there you go. But in this case, no, arm all these people. Arm all these people. Because, and so, how about that? Instead of what the UN is doing, where they're like, oh, no, quit sending guns to the government. Okay, you know what? That's not going to work. Your finger wagging doesn't work. The government's going to be sent guns anyway. Okay, two can play at that game, bitch. How about we send the other side guns? How about that? How about even better than that? How about we actually show up? No, we can't do that. That's aggression.
Yeah.
That's imperialism.
No, that's aggression. No, You know what's so sad is that the only big figure that I've seen actually call for intervention in Myanmar is or Myanmar is it was Kevin Rudd, the former Prime Minister of Australia. You can't even get a current leader to call for that. So, yeah, what a joke. Anyway. You don't see Biden calling for intervention. You don't see Johnson calling for intervention. You sure as hell aren't going to see Captain Blackface in Canada calling for intervention there. So.
What about Corbyn?
Corbyn would support the junta. Well,
yeah, he'd support intervention on the other side.
Yes. He would support them because he would say that they're sticky into Western neoliberal imperialisms and stuff. And literal colonizers, bro.
What I don't get is why aren't these foreign leaders calling for at least peacekeepers? Like, at least putting a peacekeeping force there? Like, I feel the same way about Tigray in Ethiopia. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's Russia, China, United States. Like, just get peacekeepers there so then these things don't happen and they can work it out diplomatically. But right now, like, there's a huge, like, anti-war sentiment that if you send peacekeepers there, it's an act of imperialism. It's like, no, it's just an act of trying to prevent people from being slaughtered.
What imperialism? It sounds like you support a regime change war. Just like Venezuela.
Yeah, let's do that one too.
Yes.
Listen to the bloodthirstiness of this man, everyone.
No, there's a
he wants the world.
No, but there's a pothole in North Dakota, so therefore you can't do anything about Myanmar and Venezuela.
Only the world will satisfy Jäger. Let it be known.
Yeah, just don't send Silvercorp to do it in their little sailboat and with an airsoft gun.
Sailboat.
If you're gonna do it, you have to do it 100%. Don't be like the Bay of Pigs where you eliminate all the air support. If you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do something, don't half-ass two things, full-ass one thing. Go in 100% if you're gonna do something. Like Timber Sycamore, don't just arm the rebels. Go in there and help them.
Based. Oh, dude, alert. That's so spooky. No. You know the Cowboys are gonna call you a neocon, dude. Oh man, let's wrap this video up.
Since the coup, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, security forces have killed more than 860 people since the coup, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners.
Wait, so that wasn't StreamYard screwing up. That was actually the video being glitchy.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
That was weird. So that was actually on the video's end. Anyway, that's that. What do we have? Well, does anybody have any final thoughts? Or are you guys down to move on to the next video? Or we could go to an intermission as well.
We could stand to do one more. I think I said what I needed to about that one. It's absurd, more useless finger wagging, and 3 months later, can't wait to see what they come up with in another 3 months, right?
Yeah. Oh man.
But at the same time, like a military takes over control of the country and you do nothing, what's going to stop that from happening to another country? Like it could be
that's the message that's being sent to the entire world right now.
It's like, oh, well, we didn't go in Syria. We're not going into Myanmar. So if you have the military take control, then nothing's going to happen. We've seen that previously in the past in Africa, where it's CAR, South Sudan, or other countries where the military will take control. But now it's happening all over the world. So if you can control the military, then you control the country. And there's nothing the West will do to stop you from doing it.
Well,
we've got too many potholes, man. Too many potholes to fill.
They're like 4 potholes. So, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So.
It's one for each limb. Shit. We're spread like butter, man. We got nothing to work with.
So let's just pass an infrastructure bill. Green New Deal, all these progressive talking points. We'll do that, and it'll solve all our problems.
Not just free college, but like if you go to college, we give you $800 million a year, that kind of thing. You know.
Finally, I made it.
And like reparations and all that stuff. You know,
my reparations.
My reparations, bro. I mean, that's a throwback to last night. But anyway, let's. What's the next clip that's on the itinerary for tonight?
I got a nice short one we could do before an intermission. This is from Twitter as well. This is someone we've covered before, unfortunately. A certain Syrian, for a clue.
Oh god, yeah, we are actually going to have to issue the alert. We normally do this for a special Kremlin bot, but we're going to have to do it for this dude as well.
There's bad coverage, and then there's TYT bad coverage.
Oh,
no, we immediately we're at 100 already. Okay, great. Okay,
good old Dick Medhurst.
Dick Medhurst.
Got it. Let's roll it back, Kevin. Let's roll it back. Let's catch that again.
Again, there's bad coverage, and then there's TYT bad coverage. They just take it to another level. They want to tell you this is a fake election.
Oh yeah, okay.
Ironic coming from this dude.
You already know it's going to be bad because now we have to defend TYT, but because of course our good friend Stephen Michael Davis kind of lit a fire under the ass of the internet recently, and ignited inadvertently a little civil war between TYT and some of their former affiliates like Jimmy Dore, and now you have goons like Medhurst jumping in too. And of course, everybody is citing against TYT. This is, I saw this. I think Stephen Michael Davis, he had like a poll, like, oh, who do you think is going to win? Or like, who do you think is winning? Oh, it's the Jimmy Dore side. It's the Mate side. Obviously. Yeah. I'll say this. We don't like TYT. Obviously, we agree with TYT on this issue. And there's a lot of like TYT derangement. And we've talked about that as well. No, they're actually right about this. But progressives do not agree with them anymore. They don't. They agree with Jimmy Dore. They agree with Richard Medhurst. They agree with Blumenthal. They agree with Ronnie Akalik. They don't agree with Jank, and they don't agree with Anna. In terms of Syria, the validity of their recent election, if you want to call it that, and the future of that nation. So, no, TYT is going to lose that big time. But I'm not sure how you feel about that, guys.
TYT's kind of made their bed, so they're going to have to be fucked by an asshole in it. So
basically,
but Jimmy Dore's doing his best to throw himself out of the running. Like, he totally admitted to sexually harassing Anna Kasparian on his show.
Well, he denied it initially, and then he bragged about it on his show. So, and it's been exposed. And so you got people like Vosh dunking on him. You got people like Dylan Burns dunking on him. And the thing is, you have Anna Kasparian, you have Keek dunking on Jimmy Dore. But I agree with Reece on this, though. Those guys are all going to be called basically liberals and neocons and shit as a result of this.
Yeah, they're going to be called. They're going to be called like bourgeoisie shit libs who are concerned with tone policing. Now, these dirtbag leftists are going to win. They're absolutely going to win. So yeah, they're dunking on Jimmy Dore now. They're only dunking on Jimmy Dore now because of those comments. They're not dunking on him for any of his Assad apologetics, really. That's the real issue at the heart of this. But Jimmy Dore is just one guy, and there's a million people like him. There are a dime a dozen in that movement.
Yeah, anyway. We're probably really fortunate that they're only popular online too, or on Twitter, I should say. Twitter and YouTube.
I'll have you know, during last night's show that Kevin was on, tell him about the Destiny thing.
It was so great. It was so great. So CTV says to Dylan, "Yo, so do you mind if we bring on Colonel Dan?" And everybody's like, "Who's Colonel Dan?" And Dylan's like, "Look, we don't normally just bring on unscheduled guests, but I guess." So after a few minutes of, I guess, CTV telling Colonel Dan how to actually join a Twitch stream, Colonel Dan, who's like this real colonel and also a self-admitted boomer, comes on and starts talking about, military intelligence as it relates to a certain type of WMD that we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube. And then at one point, Destiny is there, tries to butt in and say a couple things about how, well, basically, that's like this or whatever. And then Colonel Dan says, like, well, I don't know who, I can't remember if he said, I don't know who the hell you are, or I think he might have said, I don't know who you are, but this is my job and this is my world. And this is basically what we're trained to do and everything. And then he repeats that to Destiny after, because it comes up again. He's like, look, I don't know who you are, but I'm basically, this is my field and this is what I do. And it was so great because Destiny is an internet famous contrarian who is pretty low energy in most of his streams and plays League and stuff like that. And this guy is a colonel who, he does all the spooky shit that Jimmy Dore would bitch about. And he the thing that's great about it is he didn't mean it in any sort of offense or whatever. He wasn't trying to own Destiny. He had no idea who Destiny was. And that was kind of awesome because it goes to show you how internet fame doesn't translate into IRL fame. Now, granted, Destiny's going to be fine. He's making hundreds of thousands a year on Twitch, but it is kind of funny. It was kind of funny. I was kind of stoked on that. I'm like, oh shit, he doesn't know who Destiny is.
Sonny, I don't know who the hell you are.
No, it was so great. It was so great, and it reminded me of like this boomer moment here with John Bolton. This boomer meme right there. You're done, son. It's like I have no idea who the hell you even are. So he's like, look, this is my field and this is what I'm talking about because Destiny, and I can't remember the specific argument that Destiny was making, but Destiny didn't really have anything substantive to offer. It wasn't a bad point. It was just kind of like superfluous. I guess he wanted to get airtime or something, even though he didn't talk very much during the stream, but it was funny. It was funny to see Colonel Dan.
That was Colonel Dan's Thanos moment. I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, I don't even know who you are. So
bingo.
It was just a Tuesday.
Just a Tuesday. That's right. The day I killed your husband was the worst day of your life. The day I killed your husband, it was Tuesday.
Oh man.
For those of you who don't know, that's Street Fighter reference.
Oh,
but at the same time, it goes back to like progressives, and they'll say, well, 80% of Americans believe what we are saying. We're on the side of the majority of the American people. Then you go to an election, and the majority of the people who actually vote do not vote in the same way that they believe.
No, they've even shown that like the people on Twitter are like 1% of the populace or something like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things like populists cannot take how they're not popular. Because everything on Twitter, everything on their YouTube.
That's their only thing. That's their only thing is, well, we're popular. We represent the will of the people. Oh, oopsie. If you represent the will of the people, you should be winning every election. But apparently not.
But then they'll say, oh, well, it's funded. Politicians are bought.
It was rigged.
Well, they were going to say Bernie Sanders, if he lost, it was rigged regardless. It's one of those conspiracy theories, like, he lost, it was rigged regardless. He lost because he couldn't get the black vote. Because black people may vote Democrat, but they are also socially conservative. Same thing with Hispanics. They may vote for the Democrats, but they are socially conservative. So, like, going for the extreme, like, socialist agenda isn't going to sell with them.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, speaking of one of these,
Yep, that's a good joke. That's a good one.
yeah. So Bernie, in fact, only represents the 1%. It's true. He basically represents the children of 1%er type, upper middle class and above,
who have
pretty
guilt,
wealthy people who send their kids
wealth
to
guilt.
Berkeley. Yeah, who send their kids to Berkeley and other pretty prestigious schools and shit. Those are the people that shill for Bernie. Wait, did I say Bernie? I meant Berkeley. Berkeley, the school Berkeley, and then they shill for Bernie online.
It's very confusing.
I know, but Berkeley
You know,
Sanders, basically.
Berkeley's. I think we've sufficiently put off the torment that this video is going to offer, and we need to face it, man.
It's a fake election. They want to tell you it's a sham, and they can't even prove it. They don't have not a shred of evidence to prove that it's fake.
Okay.
No, you said this was going to be a fast video. We're going to be here all night. We're only 12 seconds in.
I may have lied.
So with the Syrian civil war, you have 5 million displaced people, 6 million refugees. 6 million refugees, only a certain percentage, a low percentage, were able to vote, most of them being in Lebanon. But yeah, it's for saying, oh, well, he got 99% of the vote, so it wasn't a sham. Like, even in a democracy, Ronald Reagan was probably the most popular politician we've had since George Washington. He didn't get even close to 99% of the vote, 97% of the vote. Like, you can disagree with Reagan, but I mean, he won 48 states.
Yeah, he won 48 states, and I think he got something like 67% of the popular vote. It was something crazy. Like, it was an absolute shutout, basically. But even then, he didn't win 100%. He didn't even get close to 100% as far as the popular vote went.
But
he got
there's
96% of the states and about 67 or something percent of the popular vote. So
there's actually videos of the military at voting stations marking the ballots for people, and there were more people. There were more people that voted that were in occupied areas of the Assad regime. Like, if you're gonna rig an election, give yourself like 67% of the vote. Don't give yourself 97% of the.
But Jäger, that would convey weakness. People might get a little hope, like, ooh, maybe next time, maybe next time we can shut them out.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I was wrong. It was 59%, not 67%. So Mondale got almost 41% of the popular vote, despite only 2 states. So even in an absolute insane victory like what Reagan had, well, he still couldn't even get above 60% of the popular vote.
So the one thing I'll give to Assad is that he didn't announce the results before the election was had, like Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan, which I'm obligated to bring up Azerbaijan every time I go on a stream, but yeah. he announced the results of the election before the election was had in Azerbaijan. At least Assad didn't do that.
Well, no, that doesn't mean
sus.
That doesn't mean that it was rigged or anything. It just means that he can predict the future. In which case, yeah, if somebody can see the future, they should be the leader of the world.
They deserve it. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. There you go.
Are you going to tell us about Syrian citizens not being able to vote?
Oh my God, we covered that in our stream where he was talking. He talked about, my Syrians in the West, when they go to the embassy, they couldn't vote.
Yeah, like in Germany.
Because the U.S. and Canada and Britain, they don't actually support democracy. Do you remember when he said that? They don't support democracy because they wouldn't let us vote in the sham election.
Yeah.
That totally normalizes and totally legitimizes a totalitarian state. But you don't support democracy. Wow. That's amazing. What an upside down world we live in. The US, the UK, and Canada, they don't support democracy. Syria supports democracy, though. They have the true democracy.
Because they're anti-imperialist.
It's all falling together.
They're on Ben Norton's list.
They're on a few lists. They're on my shit list for one, but they're on his simp list. Very different kind of list.
Yes, imperialism.
Well, he's a worse grifter than Dave Rubin, because he used to be in like a band, and even in 2011, where the Syrian revolution started, he didn't mention it until about 2016. Like, he's Syrian, born in Damascus, but didn't start talking about it until 2016. Before, in 2011, like, this is documented all the way through by a Twitter account. I think it's DragonNet. He was in a band. He was trying to promote his own music. And he was in the band.
DragonNet. That was like a big thing back in like 2008, wasn't it?
I think it's Dragnet, but yeah, there's a Twitter account that goes through all his things. Like, even his name, like Papa Chulo Man, like, that's an American Spanish name, and he'll wear like a Dodgers hat on occasion. It's like, he lives in the UK. Why would he root for the Dodgers that are in Los Angeles? Like, his total thing is just a total grift, and he's worse than Dave Rubin, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Well, in that case, I mean, like, Dave Rubin's grift is kind of, he's just dumb, but these guys are actually smart about it. But they're all grifters. Like, if you go back, you look at Arenia Kalik's old tweets, you look at Blumenthal's old tweets, they used to be hard on Assad. They used to be publicly critical of him. Not so much anymore. Not since they attended a certain summit. Maybe came into, oh, but that's a conspiracy. You can't talk about that. You can't talk about the money connections. You can't talk about the trips to Damascus. You can't talk about, you know, that cushy gig that they've got going. That's conspiratorial, and your argument is invalid. Then okay, good to know.
Well, it's just convenient that they changed their opinion after they went on that trip.
Well,
And
yeah, naturally.
like, especially like Rihanna Colics, like, they and Max Blumenthal, they took a picture of where like snipers from the regime gunned down people, and like, oh well, it's all ISIS and Al Qaeda. It's like, ISIS and Al Qaeda wasn't a huge thing in Syria that time. It was the people uprising against the authoritarian government. But they're like, oh, it's all ISIS, all Al Qaeda, all the rebels are ISIS and Al Qaeda. But that's not what happened in Syria, and you can see that by evidence of their tweets in the past that many of them have deleted. And Suzuki has a webpage where he has old tweets saved, which is pretty awesome.
It will haunt them to the grave.
In Germany,
just until the next grift.
in Canada, in France, because they were blocked from going to the consulate. Are you going to tell us about that? No?
Not everyone.
I'm going to predict something here. He's about to say something cringy. What do you guys think?
It's a pretty good prediction. I'm
going to say he says something misogynistic.
Oh, yeah. For sure. He's one of the Jimmy bros. So,
he really held, you know, Germany's feet to the fire there, and France and Canada. They don't support democracy. Let it be known.
Well, you even look at Jimmy Dore, like, he criticized, I don't like AOC, but like, he doesn't point out anybody else. He points out mostly women on his show that he disagrees with. And so I imagine he's going to go down.
It's always about the mannerisms. Yeah, no. It's pretty easy to pick up on when it's like, okay, this is going a bit beyond criticism at this point. There's some seething hatred boiling beneath the surface.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you could pick Cenk because he's a fucking idiot. But, yeah, they generally single out these women on the other side.
Now, look, Cenk would never objectify a woman. Now, a horse, on the other hand, yes.
No, but
I would disagree. He's done both.
It's not objectification if the horse enjoys it, though. That's what he would say.
I mean, it's all the same in the dark.
Spicy.
Woo. We're getting spicy over here. Okay.
Yeah, now watch our Twitch channel get taken down before we even have 100 followers. Just nuked. We're at like 92 followers now, which is pretty good. Became
So
like
close.
12 followers in the wake of the Burns debate, or not the debate, the panel. So yeah. Anyway, let's take a look at what Richard Medhurst, Dick Medhurst, has to say about the Young Turks.
Dick Diddley.
No.
Not everyone was allowed to vote in this presidential election.
Why not, Anna? She's not going to tell you that, right? No. She's going to say that the Syrian government is blocking people from voting.
That's what happens when you kill, maim, displace, and otherwise completely control the opposition. And
how does Bashar al-Assad completely...
Oh, come on, dude. Oh, my God. Notice how he's...
That's the only time he has an accent.
Notice how he talks like a white boy until it's Bashar al-Assad. It's so cringe, dude.
It reminds me of George Galloway, actually.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we might be talking about him later. We'll see, so...
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, what do you think of that, about that, Kevin? What do you think about that? He really shut down TYT right there.
Oh, yeah, no, Young Turks owned. Progressives win. It's a victory. The neolibs over at Young Turks lost. A bunch of neocons, corporatists, schools, etc. Yeah.
You know, they say like Matthew Dimitri selectively edits, you know, some of his clips, but what did he just do there? He had her ask just a question for about 2 seconds, and then he's going to answer it for her when she was about to explain the people who weren't able to vote. Like, it is so selectively edited. Like, oh, well, she just asked a question. Now I'm going to stop her here and explain my side of the story.
No, it's cherry picking. It's 100% cherry picking. It's as much cherry picking as Jelly Joe Lewis was in trying to find racial jurisprudence to disprove and debunk the liberal project last night. So.
Oh, no. No, that's such a good point, though, Jäger, because they're always going on about that Matthew Dimitri account. Oh, you took me out of context. And it's like, have you seen the Jimmy Dore show? Like, have you seen the last time we covered Jimmy Dore? People may remember this. I believe this was the last time we covered him. What he did, he was going after Neratandon, and then he took some clip of Trump that was vaguely about a similar issue, and he said, "Look at them, they're the same." Oh, but then they're going to go on about, my context. Oh, you took me out of context, even though you played, me talking for a full 2 minutes. Hey, is that actually him?
That's actually him. Yeah, that's
based.
I believe that's him. I'll have to go to YouTube just to check in the YouTube chat because I can't verify the chat here. But that is his account name, Dylan Burns TV. So if that is actually him, we'll find out right now.
I could check.
Oh, I can only check the account on my phone. Go to their account. It won't actually show me here, but. No, that has to actually be him because that's his YouTube name. Anyway, yeah. No, thanks for having me on last night, Dylan. That was great. And yeah, who knows? I'd be interested in debating in the future, and maybe you can take the hawk pill. So we'll see. Yeah.
But yeah, you put together a good panel. That was quite entertaining, shall we say?
Yeah, man. Yeah, imagine Mike shows up, right when we're talking about the humanist report. Oh man.
Oh no, that was great. Did you see any of that, Jäger?
I did not. I was watching the Jazz game because I'm a sports fan that likes franchises that like to lose games, even though they're favored to win. Yeah. So I was drinking my pain away last night.
I understand. Man. You would have been drinking your pain away if you watched some of the commentary over there too. But
well, Mike
I wish I would have watched it because the Jazz blew a 25-point lead. So yeah, I would have rather watched that. But yeah, I like pain. So
well, that's why you're here, right?
That's why you're on Ghoul Gang Rising right now. We're a bunch of masochists. We sit and watch isolationists for 4 hours tell us how we're evil and that the West is the bad guy. So
that's pain if it ever existed. But
yes,
because on the what we were getting into was on the show we've covered some videos from the Humanist Report, and he happened to be on that panel with Kevin. And he didn't talk a whole lot, but Kevin actually brought it up. He brought that up to him, like, yeah, I've covered you on the show, disagreed with you on foreign policy, and then he had this little gasp. He was like, but he was like half joking. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, he was half joking, but I was also agreeing with him. That segment, that part of the Dylan Burns show, if you watch it, I was in 100% agreement with Joe Louis, and Mike Figueredo, and Hunter Avallone. Unironically. It was crazy.
Well, they were right.
Yeah,
they were right on that particular issue. But it was funny because you gave your like opening speech, and then Mike followed you, and he was like, "Yeah, so I agree with Kevin." And I was like, "Wait, what? I agree with Kevin? Wait a minute."
Well, of course. I mean, the thing is because he's not a homophobe, right? Of course, right? That's the thing, right? So
of course he's gay as far as, or he's bi. He's something. He's talked about coming out before, but I don't know his exact orientation. But there you go. That was funny. It was funny to have him there when we've covered him on the show. But he's a nice guy. No hate. He's not like Kyle, who's completely unlikable. But
but the thing is, even Kyle isn't anywhere near as toxic as Richard Medhurst and Jimmy Dore. Like Jimmy Dore is in the running. Like if I was able to do a community poll, which I'll be able to do once we hit 1,000 subs, I would put a poll out asking who is the most toxic of these, I guess, progressive, if you can call them progressive. They're more Nazgul at this point almost, but these like
dirtbag left.
Yeah, the dirtbag left, because it's basically the people in the running are people like Jimmy Dore, Richard Medhurst, and basically, you've got people like Jesse Ventura back in the day, but he's not really too active anymore. Who else was there? I mean, we've dunked on a lot of these people, but consistently, these guys make Kyle look like an angel in comparison. Because even with Kyle, you don't see that type of rampant misogyny. All that you see from Kyle is basically dictator apologetics. But these guys, they go and like with Kyle, it's apologetics by not wanting to do anything about anything. With Richard Medhurst and Jimmy Dore, it's apologetics by actively supporting these dictatorships. I've never seen any evidence that would indicate that Kyle's been paid by any of them. But Jimmy Dore has received money from the Syrian government. Richard Medhurst, I'd have to look into it. So I'm not going to comment on it.
He's doing content for the Kremlin now, but I'm sure he's done things before.
Also, Press TV, which is Iranian state media. He's also on Press TV, so he's definitely biased. And I mean, if they're doing stuff for like RT or Press TV and they're not getting paid for it, they should be getting paid for it.
They should. Well, and Corbyn, we just talked about Corbyn. Corbyn's gone on Press TV too, on Iranian state TV, and shilled for their line. So, they're the dirtbag left. They actually make Kyle and Anna look normal. They make Cenk Uygur look totally normal,
But at the same time, if you're not getting paid for your appearances, like even if you go on like Fox News or whatever as a contributor, you should be getting some compensation for your time and for your effort.
That's the thing.
If you're not getting compensation for your time and effort, then you're just shilling for free. Like you should look at capitalism and for your traits, for your skills, you actually get paid for what you're doing.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing right there. And so I want to go to Dylan Burns though, because he says that the Humanist Report and himself are gay as far as he knows. So there you go. Because the thing was, this was in the context on the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. We actually had one guy, CTV, who was arguing that LGBT education shouldn't even be a thing before university, which is completely absurd and ridiculous. But he took it a step further and said, well, why not do something productive and teach kids in school how to use firearms? And so I brought up the point. I'm like, because I opened with a point about, suicide rates amongst transgender people and how it's 40% before 18 and then 92% before the age of 25. So I said to CTV, oh, so basically you just kind of want to speed up the process for the suicides, basically. And he got angry, and then he went on to basically call me a pedophile later on in the segment. It was wild. It was crazy. Like if anybody's gonna watch that show, and I suggest everybody, if you've got the time, go and check it out over on his Twitch channel. Watch the second segment, the one on LGBT education in schools, because that was the most wild segment. I believe it was the most heated. It was insane. We had this paleocon there who was basically arguing that, as Destiny indicated, that he wanted to basically weaponize the idea that, well, you can teach it and people can be openly gay as long as they're not infringing on anybody else. In other words, oh, I'm Christian and I'm uncomfortable with gay people around. So, and he wouldn't say that explicitly. He was basically 95% mask off, but he couldn't take the mask off thoroughly. And so it caused a really heated debate. I would say that was the most heated debate throughout that panel. The panel was 4 hours. If you go and check it out, it was great. I had a pretty good time, but you could tell when he went and tried to call me a pedo, I was ready to drop some nukes right on that guy. So, and you can check it out for yourself. So
you were about ready to give him the nuke pill.
The nuke pill. That's right. The nuke pill. That's right. That's right. Just like nuke pilled Pepe right here. So, wear your flash goggles and your thermal goggles, and before you go and watch that stream, because I dropped a few nukes on CTV and that Spartacus dude. So, and they were agreeing with me a little bit initially in the first segment, and then the second segment that was
Then
they called me a leftist. Like I called a leftist, which is hilarious. So what a
leftist.
Like apparently not wanting to otherize and what would you call it? Basically ignore a massive suicide problem is that just immediately makes you a leftist. It's like, so
it makes you a lib.
I mean, I am a lib. That's true. I'm a lib, but
makes you a dirty lib.
A dirty lib. That's right. So yeah, no, I'm a liberal unilateralist or unilateralism, whatever.
Unilateralis.
Yeah, whatever Dragon said. Yeah, anyway. Like, okay, I like how the whole time we've had this pause on Richard Medhurst looking like a total dum-dum. I mean, this is so great. And like, I mean, look, he's cultured. He's got a Muse poster in the background. That album's meh. Like, there's a couple good tracks from that album. He's got like Green Day. Ooh, that's edgy. Like, ooh, it's like, Michael Moore era and stuff.
That's edgy. Whoever said that?
Like, I'm
He's got
being
Green Day, man. That's real edgy.
I'm being facetious right now, but like he probably thinks it's edgy and cultured. That's the point.
He's wearing a scarf again.
Yeah. And the only good thing about him is his taste in music, because he has Jimi Hendrix there as well. I guess the only good thing about him.
His taste in music is the least problematic aspect of this guy's entire life. So yeah, for sure.
I wonder if you get to listen to a lot of music in Syria. Wonder if that's a thing. Blasting some Green Day.
You know what? Unironically, in before a bunch of the Assad simps start posting links to Syria, Bashar, or what is it? God, Syria, and Bashar. You know that stupid pop song from Syria where it's like, it's catchy, it's cringe, but it's also catchy. Where it's just like, everybody knows that meme of like that propaganda song, right? I've had Asada send me that song as an own before. It's like, oh, who must go? And then they send me that song, and it's all like God, Syria, and Bashar. So,
but how do you justify that as not a cult of personality? Because, I mean, you're worshiping a mortal man. You have God, your country, and then your leader. Like, there's pictures of Bashar al-Assad all over Syria. It's like, we don't have pictures of Joe Biden up on billboards across Wyoming. We don't have them across the United States. Like, the president is an important person, but we don't worship him like he's a god.
Well, they would say it's not really a cult of personality because the people choose to honor him. That's what they would say. That they're just
or they get tortured and thrown into jail and beaten.
Oh yeah, we can't talk about that. That's neocon propaganda.
Fake news. Now, there's a historical precedent where you could say, well, we honor God, but he was chosen by God. He's God's chosen representative on earth to lead the people and endow our wonderful system.
My divine right of kings, bro. So.
Exactly. He may as well be a king. I mean, his country functions like a monarchy, and it has for a very long time.
That's basically like North Korea in that sense, but not quite as extreme. But we can continue with the video.
Control the opposition. If half the country is under opposition rule, you stupid fucking clown.
Oh, wow. Ooh. Dude.
We weren't we're not talking about the
bro.
So they weren't talking about the armed opposition, by the way. They're talking about the fake, like, puppet opposition for the election purpose.
But at the same time, he just admitted that the election was fraudulent as well. Because if half the country's under opposition, that means not everybody in the opposition was able to vote.
Ooh. Well, see, Assad tried his best to liberate those people, Jäger. He tried his best. He was going to get to them.
He was the reformer. Unlike his father, he was supposed to be the reformer.
So they always say, no, that's what they always say. That's what they said about Kim Jong-un. Is, he's young, he's going to reform everything. Bullshit, dude. Like, the people are so naive and gullible. They're like, oh, he's a Zoomer, he's going to reform stuff. It's like, no, he likes money and power. And we've got Nicholas who asks, why is this guy always yelling? Because he's an unhinged maniac. So let's continue with the video.
It sounds like an ad hom, bro.
Ad hom, bro.
Half the country is not under his control. How does he control the opposition? What planet do you live on, you imperialist swine? Get
you imperialist swine.
That's a misogynistic calling a girl pig, but who am I to say?
Well, yeah, you sound like a feminazi, man.
Yeah, you sound like
one of them SJWs.
SJW.
The fuck out of my face.
Wait, what? We're going back. We're going back. He was talking like a white boy, and now he's going Arabic on us.
Fuck out of my face. These motherfuckers.
Oh my god, dude.
These motherfuckers.
Dude, you gotta be kidding me, dude. He's unhinged. He's totally off his rocker, dude. This guy's insane. He's a lunatic.
He didn't appreciate that. He didn't appreciate TYT's imperialist propaganda, man.
Yeah, he went from Southern accent to Arab so fast. Yeah. No, this guy's ridiculous. This guy's a law.
But let me remind you what triggered this. It was just Anna asking a question. Like it was literally a 2-second, 3-second clip from Anna that triggered this entire response.
Look, he's chimping out. He's totally chimping out. He's like Hawes. Oh, that's another guy I would have to put in the running is Hawes, except he's not as big as these guys. But he's definitely toxic. So
you know what? I would pay good money for a Hawes Medhurst debate.
Well, I think they agree on a lot of stuff. I want to see a Hawes versus Alex Jones debate.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Yes, you got loudmouth monkey left winger versus loudmouth monkey right winger. It would be hilarious. They'd both be like, I am tough, super male vitality. And he'd be like, I am tough, I'm Guerrilla Army. And they go at it. Basically be like a wrestling match online. Basically.
Let's just get Joe Rogan to commentate.
Yes,
we'll
Joe Rogan can moderate it.
Yeah, good luck moderating that shit. And before anyone gets on our case for the edits in this video, Richard posted this to his own Twitter. So
yeah, these are his edits, bro. So
yeah, that's
they
how
sound like the CIA. They sound like the DOD. They sound like the goddamn people at Whitehall.
Yeah, so basically they're neocon ghouls. They're the CIA, bro. He's talking about the Young Turks. The Young Turks think Tulsi Gabbard is a neocon.
That's amazing, though. I think it's an indication of how far the Overton window shifted for them. Where, here's the thing, they're not advocating for intervention in Syria. And they were extremely opposed a couple of years ago to Hillary Clinton, the candidate who was, very well known for wanting to have that red line in Syria, that no-fly zone, and actually induce some worthwhile intervention there. And they smeared her to all hell. But they're imperialists. Oh, they agree with the CIA. Are you saying that the CIA is incapable of ever being right? We wouldn't even say that about our opposition. We always do a broken clock meme. We're doing that with TYT right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they sound like the CIA. They sound like the DOD. Not really. They sound. You know who else they sound like? They sound like the UN. Even the UN would recognize that this was a fraudulent election.
That's right. Yeah, even the UN, even the United Nations, even the concerned bros would recognize it.
But that's all she said. All she said is like, not everybody was allowed to vote in Syria. He's like, well, you sound like CIA. You sound like this. It's like, all she said is not everybody allowed to vote. Like, which is true. And he's like, oh, well, not everybody's allowed to vote, so it must be a CIA regime change plot. Wikipedia is a source of imperialism. Like, it's absolutely crazy how he goes on this rant when she just asked just made a simple statement saying, well, not everybody in the Syrian election was allowed to vote.
No, he's such a dummy.
He catapulted off that and he said, well, yeah, well, what about all the Syrians in Germany? They couldn't vote for Assad. Oh, wait, shit. I said the quiet part loud. Shit.
Yeah.
CIA,
vote for whoever they want. Yeah. Vote for the best candidate.
They sound like the DOD. They sound like the goddamn people at Whitehall. They're no different. Oh, it's not my place to bring democracy and, to interfere, but I'm totally going to say the same motherfucking shit that people have been trying to interfere in Syria. I've been saying for the last 10 years. And I love how they say, according to the official results. Can you please tell me which authority is supposed to issue the results about the Syrian presidential elections? Al-Qaeda?
Oh. Bruh. He did the Al-Qaeda meme.
He did the meme. Bro.
You can't be serious.
Yeah, dude, no. You said this was a short video. No, this is going to take hours. You managed to say something stupid every 5 seconds.
Clip was 2 minutes, man. I tried.
It's 2 minutes. We've already been going for like half an hour on. No, he's insane, dude. I mean, we've already gone over Al-Qaeda. Like that's ridiculous.
So
what do you even say?
We also went over how the fact he wasn't talking about the Syrian civil war 10 years ago as well, because there's no evidence that he was discussing it 10 years ago. 2016 was the first year he talked about it, so he hasn't been talking about 10 years, maybe 5. But Al-Qaeda wasn't a huge deal in Syria until, I want to say 2015, 2016. So, like, it was more like a popular uprising. And originally, like, the Syrian Revolution was not about removing Assad from power. It was like, we want more rights. We want a say in what's going on in the country. We want these corrupt officials to be arrested. And the Assad regime, rather than, reforming, they said, well, we're going to reform. And then their police force would reform in the form of bullets to protesters. And that's what started
I get some reform for you.
That's what started the Syrian revolution. Like, if Assad would have reformed, there wouldn't be a civil war in Syria. Like, even if he had gave minor concessions at the start, there wouldn't have been a civil war. But instead, they fired live ammunition onto protesters, killed people, which at a certain point, when people are getting killed when they're protesting for more rights, there's a point of no return, which happened in Syria.
Yeah, and then that's where they came to the whole Assad or we burn the country, and they made good on that word. So
look, Jäger, if they'd gotten rid of Assad and elected some lib, they wouldn't have been able to stand up against Al Qaeda and ISIS, and they were there because the U.S. did regime change wars right next door. Got 'em.
Well,
that's why they can't have freedom. They can't have freedom in Syria. They need a strong leader.
First, they would have never elected a lib. They would have probably, if elections were free and fair in Syria, they would have elected a Sunni, because that's the majority of the country, yet the Alawites rule the country, which is a minority. So it's kind of an apartheid state. But yeah, it would have never been a lib. Like
anyone but Assad is a lib.
Yeah, because Assad believes in gay. Oh, he doesn't. Gay marriage is illegal. Marijuana is bad. Yeah, I even think Vaush made a tweet about it. It's like, oh shit, this Assad guy doesn't believe anything that I believe. It's like, yeah.
Wake up call.
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
maybe
well,
you should. Maybe you should follow that logic to its to its conclusion.
It's like, oh, this guy is a right wing extremist, and in a borderline apartheid state, and has ties, because Baathism is Syrian nationalism, which has ties to Nazi Germany. Oh, maybe we got to distance ourselves from this guy.
Medhurst doesn't have that thought at all. Not one moment of remorse. He's going to sit here and say, oh yeah, it was legitimate. Everything was fine. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. They were doing their best. They have to, and if you get uncomfortable and you're posed with these questions you can't answer, just say, Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, man.
It's because
I love this question. I love this question from Mycroft. Is this basically the male Syria girl?
Yes.
He has with more charisma. So I don't know if you watched Syrian Girl before, but it's like watching paint dry.
She's kind of like the female Max Blumenthal in that way.
Yeah.
Very low stamina, low energy.
Yeah, like justice delayed is like it's like justice denied, man.
Throwback.
Yeah.
No, honestly, the thing is, I'd say from what I can tell, Medhurst kind of plays it more to the left, and Syria Girl kind of plays it more to the right. But you know, when it comes to the foreign policy, they're the same.
McDonald's? Yeah. Of course, it's according to the official results. Who the fuck else would give you the results?
Oh, come on. The results are bullshit.
Well, I mean, they said it. So they ran their own election, and don't worry about what the rest of the world has to say about that election. Don't even the CERN bros at the UN said, no, this is a bullshit election. No. So he's like, who else is supposed to give you the results? Again, like, that is an authoritarian mindset right there. I mean, who else? But it's Assad. I mean, it's his election. Oh, wait, you said the quiet part loud again. Can't say that.
No. It's not like Syria was an authoritarian state before this election either. Like, even before the Civil War, like, the reason people started protesting is because it was an authoritarian state. Like, it's been ruled by the same.
Talk about that.
It's been ruled by the same family since like the 80s, 70s or 80s.
Can't talk about that. It's that's spooky. And look, man. There's been a regime change war. There's been a dirty U.S. lib war happening in Syria for 10 years. That's the cause of all the problem. They armed Al Qaeda. They befriended Al Qaeda to keep the dear leader down, but he doesn't quit and he doesn't give up on his people. Hail Assad!
Well, he's not as good of leader as people think, because without Russian and Iranian support, Syria would have fallen.
Look, those are very base comrades in the fight for freedom. Anyway,
You know what? I want her to go live in Idlib. Go live in Idlib, Francesca.
Hey, that's our line. You can't say that. That's what we say.
Well, no. We say to him, go live in Damascus. So he says to her, go live in Idlib.
Yeah, I'd rather be in Idlib.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to be in Idlib. Idlib's Turkey owns part of it. Syria owns the other. Like, I don't think anybody wants to be in Idlib, because either you're FSA, where you go fight in Libya for Turkey, or you're on the Russian side where you get bombs dropped on you. So Idlib's the worst place you could stick somebody right now.
Dun dun dun. And he wants to put TYT reporters right in the middle of it all.
Well, Cenk would fight for the TFSA.
No, he wouldn't. he wouldn't fight for anyone. He's Cenk.
He's Keek.
He could be a water boy.
They would be a water buffalo boy.
They are fighting in Libya. It is a desert, so he could provide water.
Yeah, Mycroft asks if this guy's a shill or crazy. I think he's probably a shill, but he's also crazy.
I think he's a grifter.
Yeah.
Like, I think his ideology will change when somebody offers him more money.
Come on, Saudi Arabia. The bid
Live
is
there.
up.
Right? This opposition, this revolution that you are glorifying. Go and live there, right? You know what they would do to her? She would not even be allowed outside the house in Idlib under Al-Qaeda. She would have to wear a niqab. She would never see daylight. You think she would have a job there? You think they'd let her report?
They're not in favor of Al-Qaeda.
I imagine if she'd be able to report in Damascus either. Like, unless you're doing Assad regime propaganda, you're not reporting in Damascus.
What a false dichotomy. Like, that's how you recruit people into extreme movements, or in this case, these extreme factions. Okay, so here's your choices: Al Qaeda or Assad. Is there a third option? No. That's all you get. Well, what about, there's like an entire world outside Syria. Can we like ally with some of those people? Get, a different thing going on here? No, not allowed. That's a regime change war, and that's wrong.
There was a third option at the start before the barrel bombs, the chemical attacks started dropping. But yeah,
see, that's what you do. See, Assad, he's forward thinking. He think, oh yeah, these guys, they're kind of, their message, it's a little moderate, it's appealing in that sense. Got to take them out. Can't have that. It's too much competition.
Well, Assad did release like Al Qaeda members from prison to say all the rebels, all the people protesting were Al Qaeda, so he could bomb them. He also at the beginning blamed all the protests on Israel as well as an excuse to bomb the people.
Well, in that sense, and we've heard about that before too, but in that sense, Al Qaeda, they're kind of like a loosely controlled opposition. Now, obviously, they're still entwined in battle with Assad's forces, but that's a very good point. That it's the conflict is largely garbage and bullshit, and we've been fed lies for 10 years. And now it's a complete shit show. But it's a shit show because people didn't choose to take it seriously from the beginning. And that's what gets me. They had here's a meme of the night. We had a golden opportunity to really make something good happen. We could have done something similar to what happened in Libya, only have done it better. Have done like a real nation building exercise. But no, people didn't have the will for that. Oh, I'm so tired of meddling around the world. Yeah, I know people are suffering, but look, there's a pothole down the street. It's been there for 2 months. Like, I have to avoid it every time I drive to the store. What do you want from me?
Well,
I'm tired of these potholes.
So Obama in 2008 was elected on bringing the troops home. If Obama goes back to war in Syria in 2011, he's not reelected in 2012.
Yeah, there's I wouldn't say an indictment of democracy. How about an indictment of a stupid, weak-willed populace? How about that?
Well, it comes down to like politicians. Do you do the right thing or do you do the thing that's going to get you reelected? In most cases, the politicians are going to get reelected. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Hey, man, if you gave Trump 4 more years, he wouldn't have had to been reelected. Who knows what he would have done?
Yeah.
He probably would have done way more isolationist shit than he did the first 4 years.
He may have fired Mike Pompeo and hired Richard Medhurst to be his Secretary of State.
Oh,
Richard's moving up in the world.
Yeah, we're almost through this video. We got like 10 seconds left. Let's try to get through. Wait. Wait.
Dude,
bruh, come
on, Dick. What are you doing here?
10 seconds. We had 10 seconds to try to be normal.
You had one job.
We're going back.
I thought of a lot of things that would be on the stream tonight, but hearing Richard Medhurst scream like a girl was not anything that crossed my mind.
No. This is ridiculous. I want to replay that.
You think they let her report?
No. We're doing that one more time. Except I'm going to get this clip for the thumbnail when we do the highlight clip, which we'll eventually get around to.
Yeah, the hour-long highlight clip.
Oh, for sure. But this is going to be a highlight clip within that. Richard Medhurst.
That's clipception.
Yes.
Job there? You think they let her report? This woman.
Dude.
He is a lol
he's
cow.
Such a lol cow. Wow.
Would have no future there in this opposition and this revolution that she's glorifying. Well done. Congratulations. Well done on your diarrhea report. Good job.
Wow.
Okay, just to point out that whole video was responding to a 2-3 second clip from Anna Kasparian.
Yeah.
Where she just basically said the question, like, oh, well, all the people in Syria weren't allowed to vote. And then he cut her off from there without allowing her to explain her position and just went on a rant.
And then it was 2 minutes to respond to 3 seconds, and then we just did an hour to respond to 2 minutes.
We're winning.
And then we're going to have to wait for his 18-hour response to this video.
I only have one response to that.
You know what?
That's the new meme.
You did it better.
Yeah, got him.
We got to go to an intermission, though. So
yes. So thanks for everyone sticking around. Thank you to Jäger. We'll be back in a few minutes. So feel free to grab a drink and prepare for the back half of Cringe. Hey.
Okay. Is Jäger ready?
He was in the chat. He might step back here.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, let's go.
Perfect.
Let's do this. What's the next video?
I got a bad one for you. So we're returning in style. This is a person that we've never covered on the show before, but I've been meaning to get to their videos for a very long time. They're quite popular, shall we say. This was a big meme on Twitter in the past week. You asked for it, and here it is. The title of the video is America First Inevitable? Skepticism of Intervention Grows.
Oh my god.
Hey, Lauren here. Let's talk about America First, because after all, America First is inevitable.
Oh, come on. This is pure cringe. Okay. So, as skepticism of intervention grows, we're like the only hawks around these days. What do you mean? Everybody's a bunch of cringe ISO cooks at this point. Wow.
It's amazing. I'm utterly floored.
They act like they're the underdog. It's like you guys control the media. You guys control like the White House at this point. Joe Biden's talking about forever wars and it's been too long. You guys have everything. You guys control Twitter, YouTube, 4chan, everywhere. So it's insane. We're like the last bastion of resistance in that sense. So
yeah. I'm floored.
You know what's interesting is she's on the Blaze TV, which is a Glenn Beck program, and Glenn Beck is a little bit more hawkish, or at least he was before Trump. Like, it's really interesting because Dragon and I did a video of her criticizing Israel, and she used to be a neocon in college, and then evolved away from that to America First.
Cringe.
That is some real cringe. But here's some cringe. I am floored that anyone would continue to tie themselves to a term like America First. The history has been exposed so many times. I mean, at this point, it's not just ignorance. It is willful complicity in the legacy of that movement and what it stood for. This is a Nazi sympathetic movement. That was what this started out as. And people are just like, oh, yeah, no, America first. It just means I'm pro-America. No. Not at all. Because you believe in weakening our national security at every turn. And you don't believe in supporting our allies. How about you're America first? Because you're going to fill the potholes. You're going to fucking fill the potholes first. You're the first to the negotiating table. What true warriors?
Well, the other thing is, like, the America First crowd doesn't believe in capitalism.
No,
which is a far cry.
They believe
from
in distributism.
Yeah. Well, they believe that all products should be made in America regardless of the cost, and we should focus on America first. But it's a global market. Like, if we can get products from Indonesia cheaper than we can make it in America, we should get them there because American companies can sell them and create jobs in America selling the cheaper products. Like, they don't understand economics, at least on the global scale.
That's such a cringe idea because, like, we're in a constant economic battle with the neoliberals who want to make their cheap products in China. Let's enrich China, a slave state doing a genocide. Let's enrich them a little bit more. And we say, no, how about we don't do that? And then these guys are like, hey, let's make everything here. Yeah, not a very viable alternative. Maybe let's make it somewhere else. Indonesia, India, somewhere else, not China. How about that? How about it's good? It's good to enrich countries that are cooperating with you. It's bad to enrich countries that are dead set against you and are looking to culturally expunge you from the earth. How about that? Kind of a basic idea. Like, it's amazing that that's the state of things. You actually have to say, don't do that. Don't fund the people who want to destroy you. But hey, here we are.
Or at least that's what the America First people say, but in case you didn't know, America First is this growing movement that's especially prominent among the dissident right that is essentially tired
Dissident
of politicians putting
Dissident right, by the way, is code for basically fasci. That's what that's code for.
Yeah, they're also known by another name, the alt-right. Oh,
The
well,
alt-right.
let's just sanitize it. The dissident right.
Or the deplorables.
Yeah. My baskets.
The baskets, yes.
That's one of my favorite memes where like it'll be like, I don't know, it'll be under like some Trump supporter, and then somebody will post the meme of Hillary Clinton with a basket and she's like pointing at it and it says "Get in the basket." It's pretty funny.
foreign interests and special interest groups
StreamYard hates us once more.
politicians putting foreign interests and special interest groups before the average American citizen. And a lot of people try to paint the movement as racist, but
because it is.
They try to paint it as that.
They paint themselves as racist. Hold on a second. You watch Nick Fuentes or any of these America First guys, like America First with Nick Fuentes. He wants an ethno state. He doesn't deny that. He would say that denying it was weak and lame. So,
yeah, I mean, like, one of the problems with the Republican Party is that majority of their party is white Christian conservative. Like, there are conservative, like I mentioned earlier, with black people or Hispanic people, but they vote Democrat. But one of the problems is kind of the draw to like conservatism is the white identity. And so like this America First crowd is about the white identity, which, you know, there are some tokens along the way, like you can name them out, but it needs
like
to
her?
be.
She's half Chinese.
Yeah, but it's a predominantly white movement and it's to pursue white goals, rather than being a multi-ethnic, mixed race kind of melting pot. And so, I mean, like, yeah, you
if they're going to try to
Nick
oppose it as, they're like, oh, they're painting us as racist. What do you think? Why do you think the dissident right opposes Israel? Why do you think they oppose foreign aid? Oh, that money's going. Oh, it's going outside America. It's going to people who aren't Americans. So yeah, there could be a racial component. There's also such a thing as xenophobia. This completely like absurd, turned up to 11 nationalism. Oh, I believe in helping my people. And if, is national security helping my people? Oh, not immediately. Not like fixing the potholes. Well, okay. We're going to choose that over our over our security, I guess. At least you filled the potholes. Oh, sorry, you filled the White Street potholes. Okay.
But at the same time, like foreign aid, I did a stream on foreign aid. It's less than 1% of the annual budget. Like if they're attacking that program as far as a conservative ideology, like you'd be better pressed to attack something like social services, where it's a bigger portion of the budget. If you cut all federal aid and put it to a different program, you're not making much of a dent because 99%, more than 99% of the money is going somewhere else.
Well, the problem with that is a lot of these guys in the dissident right actually support welfare statism. They support distributism, that kind of stuff. The only thing is they want it for whites. So they're pretty much economically left wing and then super conservative.
My white birth rates and my child tax credits.
Yeah, they're big on the government paying people to have kids, as long as they're Christian and white.
There you go.
I don't think it's racist or xenophobic for America to say, no, we need to put our own interests first. In fact,
okay, here's the thing about foreign aid. It does actually promote American interests to help out your allies and to help stabilize important parts of the world. So,
well, it also helps the economy as well.
And that too.
Like if you're looking at America First, it's a global economy. Like, we make products in Indonesia, we make products in China. I know we don't like the China, but we got products over there. We make products in India, we make projects in Taiwan. Like, we need a global economy, and if we can provide Israel, which is a high-tech industry, with defense, and then they can develop tech, and we can use that tech and then incorporate it into our economy. Like, foreign aid is look at it as like an investment into this country. Israel's a great example because we help them with their military aid. We don't give much humanitarian assistance to Israel, but we help them on that military aspect, and then we work with them with tech, and it increases the amount of jobs in America because Israel's allowed to develop that tech that we can then use to create American jobs. But it goes back to this misunderstanding of how like the economy works. Like, other countries can do something like a contractor. We're contracting Israel to develop high tech, and then we can use that for other services or other products in the States. But if we just isolated ourselves to just America, then we lose that ability to contract out some of that work, some of that labor, and all of a sudden we're going to have to retrain Americans to do the same things that the Israelis are already doing.
And then there's all the other nations that are going to capitalize on that. Adversarial nations who have an entire world to work with as their playground. It unopposed. That's what they get to transform into capital. There was a point that you brought up earlier in the stream, Jäger, that I actually like, and I'd use this as a good example of foreign aid too. So the vaccine thing for India, not only does it help an ally, and someone who we would hope would be a stronger ally, even more so going into the future, but it's good for optics, makes America look good, amazingly enough. Now, if America starts cutting foreign aid, how do you think America looks? We look like shit. We look like monsters, because basically at that point, you're the wealthiest nation in the world and you're hoarding it all. This is the problem that I was bringing up earlier as well. So many people have a problem with multitasking. They're tunnel visioned. It seems incomprehensible to them that we could take care of national security concerns, humanitarian concerns, and actually have domestic infrastructure in place. Domestic. Amazingly enough, you can help the people. You can help the people of your own nation. I'm not entirely convinced she even wants to do that, because I don't know if she's a distributist. She's always seemed, before this, this phase, more in recent years, she kind of just seemed like a standard conservative to me. How much does she really want to help the American people? How much taxpayer money does she really want to send back to the American people? I don't know. Oh, but apparently we can't do that. Can't do it. You can't protect your nation and also fix the potholes. Well, you know what? That's not true. But if that were the case, you should probably protect your nation, so you actually have a nation, and then you can deal with the potholes later. How about that?
Or we could just get Domino's to fix all the potholes.
There you go.
Domino's. So, but the thing is, like, America's not that, like, the UK, France, and some of the countries in Europe give way more percentage of their GDP in foreign aid than America does. Like I said, America gives less than 1% of their budget to foreign aid. Other countries are going to give 2 to 3%. Wish we could get that in NATO, but they give that in foreign aid.
There you go. It's too much, man. We're taking away from the workers here. The poor people on the ground. They have nothing. All they have is potholes.
And kiwis.
And kiwis.
As Haas would say.
As a nationalist populist, that's what I think every single country should be doing. And it's not about being against other countries in the same way that a husband saying that he...
It doesn't... It's not about being against other countries. Well, the intent is debatable. I'm a little bit more concerned with the outcome, to be quite honest with you. Oh, we're not against them. We just don't want to help them. Okay. Really? Is that really the best foot forward? Look, I'm not against you. Like, you're starving, and I could help you. Or you're in Myanmar, and you're being oppressed, and you're being shot in the streets. Yeah, we could help you. But yeah, we don't wanna. We've got potholes, man. Look, we all have our troubles in life. Everyone has their problems. You have being gunned down in the street. I have my potholes. I don't care about you. You know why? Because there's lines on the map, and over here we're Americans, and over there you're Karens. You're not the same as me. We're not all. It's not like we're all red underneath the skin. No, we're all different. We're all special. We all belong to our tribes, apparently. Oh, those aren't human beings. Those are. It's don't look at the TV. That's propaganda. It's CIA. That's George Soros. That's something else. Focus on the potholes.
The world is anarchic. So if every country acted in their own interest, Venezuela would take islands in the Caribbean, Russia would take Ukraine, Georgia, potentially Azerbaijan, Armenia, reestablish the Soviet Union, Belarus, Poland. Like if every country acted in their own interest and there was no deterrence for it, the world would be a lot more dangerous place than what it is today.
That sounds like imperialism, globalism, Sorosism. All those isms.
There's always an ism for everything.
That's what she would say. You sound like a deep state ghoul.
A ghoul.
But
children.
I don't live in Turkey, so I'm not a member of the deep state.
Are you part of the thick dude party by chance?
The thick dudes. Dude. Yeah, no, Alex R, man. That was one of the cringiest memes of the year so far. So
let's bring it back like 10 seconds. I think we missed something.
Say no, we need to put our own interests first. In fact, as a nationalist populist, that's what I think every single country should be doing. And it's not about being against other countries in the same way that a husband saying that he puts his children before anything else is not the same as him saying that he hates other families. No, it's just being clear.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, Lauren. Like really.
Yeah, way to try to find a domestic analogy and apply it to the international world, which, as Jäger noted, is anarchic. American society is not anarchic. You have a law that protects you in case other people infringe upon your rights. In the world, we don't have that. So if we fuck this up and the Russians win, it's GG's. You don't get a second shot. So there's no world police if the Russians win. They win. But
it's so false though. This narrative is so false. Oh, you're putting the word because we went over that GDP percentage for foreign aid. Do you know most money in our annual budget does not go to foreign aid, does not go to the military, it goes to like Social Security and shit. So what the fuck are you talking about? What? Oh, let's have 100% of it go to Social Security. Oh, then we'll be better off. Then we'll be saved. Western civilization saved. We're returning heroes, folks.
But as a national populist, she would be in favor of Social Security. And
there you go.
A lot of Americans, they don't necessarily agree in war, but interventions, especially humanitarian, they will agree in. So, like, a national populism, like, what is popular with the American people? Donald Trump got elected on immigration, so immigration is going to be an issue. Joe Biden got elected on healthcare, so healthcare, like, is she slowly going to come to the Kyle Kulinski side of things, the left wing? But
that's the problem with being a populist. Like, you don't actually, in that case, there's going to be times when you don't really stand for anything. You're so malleable, it's just like, well, whatever people are in favor of, except not really. Like, they say they're popular. It's kind of bullshit though. It's such a, oh yeah, I'm a populist. That's a trendy thing to say, except you're not. You are first and foremost a Christian nationalist, libertarian. Let's put that in big quotes. Not really. A Christian nationalist. Oh, but I'm a populist. Because I want to empower the people, man. As long as the people agree with me, then I want to empower them. If the people don't agree with me, oh no, fuck them. No, unacceptable.
Yeah, and I think me bringing up Kyle Kalinske is probably a bad example because he's not too popular. Because actually, Joe Biden's public option was more popular than Medicare for all. But yeah, like Joe Biden got elected on healthcare because people thought he could solve healthcare, solve COVID, and that sort of thing. But they preferred his option compared to Bernie Sanders' option. But yeah, like, would she be in favor of public option? I would venture to say no because she's on the right wing of things, so she's not a total populist. And the same thing with
they try to appropriate it. That's because it's seen as trendy, but that because something's trendy doesn't necessarily translate to it being popular in the real world, and we explained that before too.
Yeah. And like if you're a left-wing populist, like to go along with that, like the issue of firearms, like you would be more inclined to go on the side of the way firearms are voted. Like Virginia is a prime example. Like they elected somebody and then he tried to pass gun legislation, but the people voted people to block that legislation. So it's, you know, populism is kind of variable, but you see these left-wing populism where there's actually like popular ideas such as firearms, where people don't want those infringed, even though you may be able to argue that there may be some things that we can do there. But as far as a populism, you'd be in favor of guns, and you'd be in favor of some sort of Green New Deal or healthcare, depending on the way people vote. But you don't see that dynamic on both sides. They're just like, well, these are my things, and I'll find these obscure polls to agree with me, and screw the right wing, they're fake populist, or screw the left wing, they're fake populist. Like, if you're a populist, you got to mix and match to both sides of what the American people believe, and you won't see Kyle Kalinske agreeing on some things, even though they're more popular with the American people.
Yeah, that's a great example of why I'd say I could never be a populist, because it's, well, you know, and then you have people like Bernie, so he's pretty lenient on guns, so that's kind of a good example of the populist left on there. And we got into this before too, but I don't necessarily just believe in going along with what's popular. That sounds like Obama tier to me. I believe in doing what I think is right, even if it's unpopular. Oh no. Now granted, you have to compromise and you have to work with people. But is that what's happening here? No, this very much feels like what it is they try to take an issue and they say everyone's in favor of this. Except not really. Not really at all. And there's no attempt at a debate. They don't take a compromise position. They take the most extreme position possible, nearly all of the time. Cut the foreign aid.
In an attempt to sway more people to meet in the middle. So it's more politics, but at the same time, like, they're not true populists.
Dun, dun, dun.
Your priorities are. And I think a lot of Americans, a lot of Westerners in general right now are looking at all of the money our countries spend on things like foreign aid, on shoring up the borders in other countries. Meanwhile, our borders are porous, on building schools in foreign countries. Meanwhile,
I hate that comparison so much, man. Our border is like, you know, the elementary school playground compared to a lot of borders, Lauren. They always try to compare, you know, this is what I hear from a lot of people who are like alt-right. They'll try to compare it to the the Gaza border with Israel. Yeah, because I remember when all those Mexicans were sending incendiary balloons into America. It's such garbage. Yeah, it's not, and okay, but in before someone says, "Oh my God, you're minimizing." No. We have problems. I'm not saying that, and I'm not even saying they're being handled as well as they could right now. But come on, she's gonna criticize. Oh my God, you're not doing anything about my borders. You don't believe in doing anything about about reinforcing the bulwark against America's true enemies. Our true enemy is not Mexico, by the way. Our true enemies are actually elsewhere.
But at the same time, the root source of immigration from Mexico is the drug war that's going on in Mexico.
Ah, you sound like CTV. I'm a drug war.
But like,
Yeah,
it's like
Jäger.
it's the second deadliest conflict in the last 5-6 years. But
Yeah.
they're not going to say we should intervene with the Mexican government to help them take control of their country.
Oh, we should. We should absolutely do that, and we should.
Well,
we
you know
should
who-
stabilize that nation.
You know who suggested doing that was Pete Buttigieg. And
Oh yeah, and he got accused of being a CIA troll, basically.
yeah, no, but like unironically, I'm gonna have a video out at some point on like how to win the drug war and everything. You actually have to have troops on the ground in Mexico to actually go to the source and actually get rid of the cartels, basically. And you have to couple that with support for the legitimate figures in Mexico and help them weed out corruption, just as you have to help weed out corruption in Ukraine and elsewhere. So
Sounds like imperialism.
That's a tough intervention.
I'm not saying it'd be easy, but it has to be done at some point.
Yeah, because they're one of the most armed adversaries that we would face. Because they obtain, I shouldn't say they steal, they obtain American weapons. Because the Mexican government isn't known from being a source that is free of corruption. So, like, we provide weapons to the Mexican government, they end up in the cartel's hands.
That's called creating your own problems, right there. Well, that settles it. That is the most compelling case for actually having troops on the ground instead of relying on a corrupt government to do your work for you.
Yeah, I there's some points, you wish you could go back in history and just, even though Mexico would have been probably a slave state, to annex a good portion of Mexico into the United States. But history is, of course, hindsight 2020.
It's like that meme, like, oh, what would girls do with a time machine? And now what would boys do with a time machine? Go back in time and, liberate Mexico. There you go.
While our own schools are crumbling, they're looking at all of these different initiatives and asking themselves, how does this...
Our schools are crumbling. What do you believe in doing about my schools?
Well, she's obviously never been to Wyoming because all the small towns have great high schools.
Exactly.
So, but
Hashtag truth.
Does she believe in like an infrastructure bill to replace all the schools, which is generally funded by the state, not the federal government?
Probably not. Gonna hazard a guess. It's such. She doesn't care. Like, it's almost pointless to even bring it up. But these are just talking points. They're part of a narrative. It's all done in an effort to point out and say, oh, you're distracted by the atrocities happening elsewhere in the world, all these mounting national security concerns and the rest of the world. Look over here. Let me wave these keys in front of your face. Hey, look, let me pull something out of a hat. Schools. Yeah, those could use some money, right? How about that foreign aid money? There we go. Problem solved. Then I don't have to fund my foreign aid and I can fund my schools.
If we took all the money out of foreign aid, we couldn't fund the schools. Don't
say that.
It's no different than the progressives. Like, oh, if we cut the military by 100%, we can fund Medicare for all. It's like,
hey,
no, we can't.
You cut the military by 10%, you can do the Green New Deal and free education. That's what some dude on Twitter said. So, $60 billion a year.
Was that
dude
Richard
sounds
Wolf?
like a genius.
No, but it was somebody equally as dumb. So I forget their name, but whatever.
Noam Chomsky fan 69.
Are you sure it's 69 and not 96?
96. That's an awkward position. Don't try that, folks.
Me? Why am I being forced to pay for this? Meanwhile, things at home aren't so good and could be improved in many, many ways. I think that's a very reasonable question.
How about you give to my
asked.
charity?
And we see this type of
You're feeling so bad about it.
Yeah, she says it's a reasonable question, but she doesn't understand mathematics.
If it's such a concern, oh, they're taking my money through my taxation is theft, and they're giving it to these other countries. What about America? How about you take all some of the money that I'm sure you've earned a lot of money, Lauren, through all this, and give to a charity of your choice. If it's such a big deal, give to the school. Go to the school fundraiser, buy some cupcakes, and that's it. There you go.
So the annual budget, I think this year was 760 billion. So 1%, less than 1%, let's say it's 7 billion. You have 7 billion to spend between 50 states, which each state probably has 1,000, 10,000 schools. So you're looking at about 7,000 to 700 bucks per each school.
Well, they can get a couple of tablets, maybe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like, if you're going to make this conservative argument, you got to attack a bigger money flow. The same thing with the progressives when they make the argument about the military. You have to attack a bigger money flow in order to pay for what you're trying to pay for.
Exactly.
Which progressives will never do because they just want to add on top of what we already have existing.
Yeah.
And right wingers, generally the American First, will never do because they don't believe in small government.
Oh, yeah. No, of course not.
No, of course.
In international relations and military conflicts. In the early 2000s, under Bush and Cheney, there was this neocon establishment that
he's invoked the ghoul.
The neocon establishment.
The ghoul.
Not really, by the way. Not really. Yeah. They had a couple real neocons floating around the administration, but it's not like that's why Bush got elected.
Yeah.
No. He was not. He wasn't hawk-pilled until 9/11 happened. That's what woke him up.
But even Bush wasn't like extremely like warmongering either, because he came up with the situation with Iran, and he's like, we have two solutions: we either go to war or we let them build nuclear weapons. He's like, we need to find a third solution because we don't want to go to war with Iran and we don't want them to obtain nuclear weapons. And so like Bush did go into Iraq, but Iran started to develop a nuclear weapons program, and he didn't go into Iran to stop it. He wanted to find a third solution to prevent a war with Iran. So he wasn't like a full like neocon, even though he did do the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan.
That's what it takes, man. That's when you know you're an imperialist. You did Iraq.
That said, hey, guess what? We can bomb the Middle East into prosperity, and it does benefit us because it'll be secure in the area, which will make the world safer.
So
except it did. There hasn't been another 9/11. No, but there literally hasn't been another 9/11 because the Taliban was pushed out of power in Afghanistan, for example.
But this goes back to trade. The biggest port of trade is Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. That port, one of the biggest trade hubs in the world. If we get stability in that as a connection between East and West, connection between Africa, if we get stability there, then we have this ultimate trade port where we can trade products and services, send them to Asia, send them there because we need a refueling station. Like, it is an economic hub. And the total misunderstanding of what the importance of the Middle East is absolutely mind-boggling for somebody who does this for a living.
Her characterization was that Bush and Cheney were trying to bomb the Middle East into prosperity. How about try again? How about say they were trying to bomb the despotic regimes that were holding their people down, not letting their people have liberty or prosperity, build up better states in Iraq and Afghanistan, states that could be fit for trade at some point, states that were meant to be on the path toward democracy, they're more democratic than a lot of other states in the region.
Yeah.
Say what you will about their flaws.
I want to go to a point from Jäger because he says that it's a bad argument because there were the Nice attacks and truck attacks all over Europe.
You mean
were
micro.
conducted by ISIS, and ISIS was only allowed to actually get any sort of meaningful presence in the region to have a base of terrorist operations in the world because, oh, that's right, the loser Obama pulled out of Iraq. Great. And of course, nobody helped out the Syrian people take down Assad, so it created a power vacuum that allowed ISIS to consolidate power and then take on the world from there. So ISIS wouldn't have been a significant threat if the U.S. had stayed in Iraq, for example.
Well, yeah,
that's
because
on Obama.
ISIS.
So when Trump did the meme and called Obama and Hillary Clinton the co-founders of ISIS, ironically, he had a point. He just meant it in the complete other way. He was just trying to do hacky political jabs. But think about it. If Obama hadn't pulled out of Iraq, ISIS never would have taken Mosul, for example.
Well, yeah, and ISIS wouldn't have. ISIS rose to a state that was bigger than the Great Britain, bigger than the state of Alabama. Like, they grew so much because we were pulling out of Iraq. If we wouldn't have pulled out of Iraq, ISIS wouldn't have been a thing. We could have continued to fight Al Qaeda, and I don't know if we would have ever eliminated 100% Islamic extremism, but the ISIS would have never grown out of the grassroots campaign it was allowed to grow out of if we would have just stayed there. And Iraq would be facing the same problems they're facing now. And in addition, when we pulled out of Iraq, Iran was allowed to come into Iraq, claiming that it was the protection of the Shia people to go in there and protect these people. So Iran gained more influence in Iraq by us pulling out because we didn't help the Iraqis defend their sovereignty.
Yeah, no, it all goes back pretty far. But just based on the ideological conditions on the ground, there's going to be Islamic uprisings. We saw this in Iran. So like it can come out of nowhere in some cases like that. And it's built up because, yeah, this is, of course, like no one wants to talk about it. Oh, it sounds like you're from 2015, bro. But no, Islam is a major factor in the Middle East, amazingly enough.
Wait, you sound like a Reddit atheist.
Yeah, sound like a Reddit atheist. Sound like an alt-righter too, apparently.
Yeah.
No. So there you go. That's what's going to happen. It's not, amazingly enough, some people take that very seriously. You might not take it very seriously. Everyone listening is probably an atheist or an agnostic or some mild Christian who doesn't actually go to church except on Easter. But some people are religious around the world. Some people actually are extremely religious and take those words to heart. When they're called on to do their jihad, they listen. And that's what's going to happen. And you're going to have that movement rise up. So what you do, so instead of being cynical and saying, well, we need my strong leader, to hold back the terrorist scourge and also not give the people liberties. Yeah, because keeping a populace repressed and extremely socially conservative, that won't lend itself to any kind of extremism down the road. No, not at all. Not at all. Now, that's what people will say. They'll say, we need my strong leaders, we need my Assad, we need my Saddam to hold down the people to prevent the terrorists from uprising. Except both of those leaders work with terrorists quite frequently. So it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And they themselves were terrorists. They just wore suits. But as soon as you put on a suit, you're like the Muslim Brotherhood and you're official. You're not a terrorist. You kill more people than terrorists. Ooh, that's not convenient to the narrative.
and therefore better for American interests. You guys have all heard the drill. Bush isn't.
You've all heard the drill
that started this. I mean,
you've all heard the drill because I've done a million propaganda videos on this, and you all watch all the other propaganda videos too. Yeah, that's a great way to say, hey, at least Kyle gives more. Like when he's going through the same repetitive talking points, he'll give more than that. Like she's basically like, yeah, you've all heard it before. I don't need to explain it. Yeah, that totally makes up for your piss poor characterization of the foreign policy goals of the Bush Cheney administration. No. That's totally fine. Yeah, that's all they wanted to do. They just wanted to bomb people. They were just psychos, man.
Mentioned places like Vietnam, Korea, all in the interests of the United States, allegedly, but just in very roundabout ways. Well, this new America First
roundabout ways.
Wow.
You don't think preventing the encroachment of the Soviets and other communist powers was in the immediate interests of the United States. Hello.
Well, she is Canadian. No offense, Kevin.
Yeah, you can have her.
Look, we have so many cringe lords in Canada. Like, Canada's a beautiful country, but the cringe foreign policy takes per capita here are abysmal. Like, everybody around where I live basically is an isolationist, anti-interventionist, that kind of thing. We're happy to pull out of Afghanistan. Canada abandoned Afghanistan in 2014. It was a complete and utter disgrace, like an absolute stain on our country's moral legacy. And yet it was celebrated, for example. So
it's not like Canada was benefited by battling the Soviet Union at all.
We'd literally be Siberia's Siberia if it wasn't for standing up to the Soviet Union. We would have been a communist gulag colony, basically, today.
Amazing. That's the way she sees the world. This is amazing. This is a great example of the xenophobia at play and just complete blind ignorance. So she looks at something like the Korean War or the Vietnam War, and she says, "Oh, what are we doing over there? Why are we helping them?" Bitch, we're helping ourselves. Come on. Oh yeah, in the process we're helping them. Oh, what a problem. What a disaster. How could we help them? We have people starving in the streets here. Never mind. First off, that's what a battery. But second, yeah, it's not to suggest like, oh yeah, no. Because people in America clearly have it worse than people who were under any kind of communist oppression in Korea or Vietnam. And still in Korea to this day. Still in Korea to this day. Amazingly enough, they don't understand this idea, and they'll make a joke out of it. I haven't even seen the video. I guarantee she's going to bring it up. They'll make fun of the idea of fighting your enemies over there so you don't have to fight them here. Except that's a great idea, because we don't want to fight our enemies here. Fuck that shit. That's why we have a prosperous country, and a lot of other nations around the world are not prosperous at all. You know why? Because the fighting is happening right in the middle of their streets 24/7. How can you build prosperity then? How can you fix any potholes then if we're having a war in the streets? Well, at least you get to be a gun-toting hero. At least you get to be Dirty Harry gunning down the commies, bro.
Yeah, as your country burns, right? So.
Hey, Patrick, we did it. We saved the city.
That's basically what it is. That's basically what it is. Because you think about it, even if you win that war and repel them, your country's a disaster at that point.
Just like Red Dawn, man.
Yep.
They are especially, I would say, cynical and skeptic about the idea that America needs to be world police. And you know what? Even as someone who is not just a nationalist populist, but also anti-interventionist,
We're
In other
not the
words, the
world
most
police.
cringe of both worlds. But I'll be back in a couple minutes. So
I get ya.
unbelievable.
The horseshoe theory connects here.
We're not the world's police, by the way. Like
No.
there's a lot of things that go down in the world. No. That's not the goal. Now, obviously, there are some humanitarian interests, like the most egregious that will come to our attention and we'll do our best to address. There's a major intersection, and I've talked about this before, between humanitarian concerns, economic concerns, and national security concerns. Oftentimes, these things all go hand in hand. Of course, naturally. If you have a nation that is willing to mess with the economic pillars of the world, they're probably doing some shady shit at home too. Probably not treating their people all so well. If they have such disregard for the international norms, as they say. And so when all these interests align, oftentimes there's an intervention. We saw this happen in Iraq. We saw this happen in other places as well. Amazingly enough. We're not the world's police. We just happen to be a superpower with extended borders in that sense. Wherein, oh yeah, we need to actually deal with things proactively. The world's very different now. It's not like back in the day when your only foreign policy concerns were if the Huns were on your doorstep. Amazingly enough, the world has changed since then. But these troglodytes don't understand that. They want to act like it's still the fucking Middle Ages. Hello? We've advanced. Things have changed. Warfare has changed. No, don't deal with any of that. Don't address the global market. Don't deal with nuclear threats. Don't deal with their puppet states. Because that makes you a globalist. It means you hate America. It means you hate the American people. We're the real patriots. We're going to pretend to care about the American people. We're going to say they need help and not actually help them. And then we're going to bash down all of America's walls and say, no, national security, we can take some money away from that. We don't need that. And we can put it toward, actually, don't put it toward anything. Just put it back in the pockets of us. Are we going to do anything economically about China? Yeah, probably not. That'd be inconvenient, man. Where am I going to get my cheap stuff?
Yeah. And I mean, like, for conservatives now, they'll be 100% hawkish against China, but against Russia or other imperial threats, they won't say anything. And as far as like cheap products and stuff like that, they'll be like, well, we want cheap products, we want tax cuts, we want X, Y, and Z, but don't go to war. Interventions are fine, but war, don't go to war. But if you cut yourself 100% off of the world, you're going to be hurting economically. Because even like looking at Mexico, we import a bunch of fruits and vegetables from Mexico. Like if we cut ourselves off from Mexico, we would be struggling to produce bananas, for example. You go to the store, all of a sudden rather than ammo shortage, there's a banana shortage. Like, an avocado shortage. Like it's like this ideology. It just makes me question what their understanding is of economics.
Next to nothing. But that's a good train of thought. Let's follow this. Let's say that somehow America was able to recover. America was isolationist, but became 100% economically self-sufficient. That would still be terrible too. The reason why is because then the enemies of America would have an unopposed globe to oppress.
Yeah.
And they could use that, and they would transform all of that, all those lands and all those people into capital to use against us. Because amazingly enough, they can still attack us even if they're not right next to us, because we live in 2021 and not 1312.
Well, and we can miss out on some technological advantages too. Like if they develop
yeah.
some new cyber warfare, all of a sudden we have no allies across the world, so we're open to attack.
What about the space lasers?
I mean, if they launch stuff into space, be like, oh, they're not going to attack us. America first. We're going to just take care of our own. And all of a sudden they attack us and we have no defense. It's going to be like Independence Day, where we have no defense against the aliens. And we're going to send some crazy son of a bitch up to the alien ship to destroy it.
If that's what it takes, man.
Well, I'm not flying it.
Hey, man, they probed him. That was revenge.
Yeah. But, like,
Kevin's abandoned us.
I don't like this trend as far as modern conservatism. Like going to this America First, isolationist. Like, that's not really what Reagan was about.
No, quite the opposite.
It's what Trump
the thing
was
is, they
about.
like they don't like Reagan. Like they wouldn't even try to hide that.
Which is crazy because like Trump, like even if you like Trump, he was a one-term president. He lost the election, and not only did he lose the election, you look at the Senate, the House, in Georgia, he flipped Georgia blue. Like, it is a losing side of things. Like, they are going down this sinking ship. They're going down on the Titanic and be like, oh, we can stay afloat. It's like, no.
The Titanic can still make it, just like Bernie.
It's like, get the fucking life rafts out. You know, try to tread water so another ship can save you. But they're going to go down this route because they think Trump is popular. But Trump proved in the last election and the Senate elections, the House elections, the last two previous elections, you've seen that Trump is not popular. This nationalism, populism is not popular. And if you continue down this path, then you're going to see a Democrat majority in the House and the Senate.
He barely won the first time. And I think a lot of it was because a lot of people tuned out because they just weren't taking it seriously. They underestimated Trump. They thought he was a joke. Some of them were still salty that Hillary got the nomination, but by the time of the next election, people were tuned in. They were not going to have that happen again.
Because Trump
that's why you saw a record turnout.
Well, Trump, like, he was just such a fucking idiot. If he would have shut his mouth, he would have probably had a second term. But he was unable to do that. He would just open his mouth and he offended a bunch of people who were probably going to sit out or not vote for him. But it's like, we can't have this idiot represent the United States of America. He had more pride than that.
Yeah, man. I heard though that having pride is sinful, so we should refrain.
Yeah, one of the 7 deadly sins.
Exactly. Hey.
Yeah, I'm back. So, this Lauren loser, basically, the extent of her concern for American security interests is like basically what it amounts to is, it's all about me. It amounts to pure greed, and it's basically, she likes domestic analogies. So it'd be basically the same as a business owner who is so cheap that they refuse to even hire the bare minimum number of people to actually be able to process customer orders to actually make money in the first place. Those kinds of businesses often go under because they're too greedy. They're concerned with their short-term profit that, we can't spend too much money on labor. We got to cut labor costs. And then you actually get bottlenecked where you can't even process enough of your sales. And then you actually have a worse return than you would have otherwise. That's basically her foreign policy. Focus on me. And then, oh shit, we got these superpowers about to invade us and no allies anymore. Uh-oh. Yikes.
The Mongols are coming.
Yeah. She's a joke. But let's continue. We're about a third of the way through.
I completely support that idea. Not only is it not beneficial for the American people to be spending money putting troops all over the world, but I mean, it's also not moral, in my opinion, for Americans or really other people to send their troops to foreign countries where the citizens may not necessarily.
Wait. She's making a moral argument in the other direction, because the moral argument is for intervention. The greed argument, the selfish argument is against it. Now, a lot of these guys will be honest about it and say, yeah, we only care about ourselves. But she's trying to say that that's the moral thing, to be selfish and greedy and disconcerted with the fate of the rest of the world. Because you lose that anyway. You actually shoot yourself in the foot by doing that. But she's trying to brand that as the moral side. Oh, that'd be like Bernie Madoff trying to brand his thing as the moral side. Oh yeah, no. I totally did a Ponzi scheme and ripped off people of $50 billion. I'm totally guilty of that. But like, should it really be illegal? Like, I mean, it was moral. I was selfish, right? It's moral to be selfish, bro. That's her argument.
She's making a sovereignty argument. Oh, well, but they're foreign. They're foreign nations. We shouldn't be there. So that's amazing to me too, because she's feigning concern. Oh, these foreign nations, we must show them respect. We must give them their dignity. But if they need foreign aid, not so much.
Not so
Can't
much.
do that. And if you want to send your soldiers in, which could be a form of some kind of foreign aid, if you're actually, deposing of some tyrannical government, that's wrong too. Not only is it wrong, or not only does she disagree on spending money to keep soldiers all around the world, but it is also immoral. It's immoral because it's foreign soil.
This is the thing. Nicholas says greed is good. It's like, by the way, just for the record here, I'm a capitalist. I don't actually have a problem with people being out to get money and that kind of shit and everything. Isn't she like some Christian nationalist? Christianity considers money to be the root of all evil, and now she's not making a money argument here directly, except she kind of is on the foreign aid thing. Like, wouldn't the idea, like, I just love the idea that you have like this Christian nationalist country that doesn't care about being charitable to the rest of the world. That's actually against what scripture talked about. So
here's the other thing. Reece and I just talked about the economics of it, but you look at the politics of it. If we exit all of the world, somebody's going to fill that power vacuum. And then all of a sudden at the UN, we can be sanctioned on that. We do have veto power, but it can make things a lot harder for the American economy if we don't have a presence in the world. Because then the world's ruled by somebody else. And when it comes to the UN, comes to voting, comes to resolutions, we are out of the loop. Like, we have to exist within the world. We can't pretend the world doesn't exist.
Well, because we do exist in the world. Like it almost goes without saying. But yeah, of course. But some people really, they're like solipsists. They want to ignore that. They're like, oh yeah, no. All that out there, outside my lines on the map, that doesn't count. Except it does. Isolationism was proven to be a failed ideology, a failed movement over 100 years ago. And yet here we still are. We're still here.
Well, she probably thinks that entrance into World War I was dumb.
Oh yeah, they all do.
They all do. They're a joke. They're
because
like
they don't believe
yeah, she's that 25% of people that think that the US was wrong to retaliate against Germany. So
I believe she actually might bring those stats up in this video.
Oh, God, because those stats don't even help her. None of those stats were even majority on her side, but whatever.
It shows that their movement is rising, though.
Ooh, it's rising, bro.
Just
your
like Haas.
presence there. I mean, I have people complaining about me talking about like British issues or American issues or whatever issues
That's
since I'm
stupid.
born in Canada. But it's like, what about the neocons, the neolibs who are actually sending?
She talks about neocons and neolibs as if they're the same thing.
But
Just like Tulsi.
As a right winger,
It sounds like Tulsi.
Like believing in capitalism, like you would at least be neoliberal. Like if you believe in capitalism, like you would believe it to some certain extent in neoliberalism. Global trade, global markets, cheaper products, like you would believe in that sort of thing. Which is kind of the big issue I have with America First is they don't believe in capitalism.
She made another really bad analogy. That's her thing apparently. But she said, "Oh well, people take issue with me, a Canadian. Like sometimes they'll say, why are you talking about America? Why are you talking about Britain? Yeah, those people are wrong. Okay, fair enough. Those people are wrong. You're Canadian. You can talk about America. I don't care. Now, what you say about America is absolute garbage. Don't get me wrong. But you, by all means, run your mouth. It is not wrong to intervene in the affairs of another nation. You're expecting me to sit here and respect the sovereignty of all states, except not all states are equal. Thanks for the false equivocation. They're not all equal. I don't look at Syria and say, oh, look at their sovereignty. Look at this sovereign state that shouldn't be interfered in. No. You know why? Here's an amazingly pragmatic reason why. Because their oppressive state of the nation that caused a civil war, that's how bad it was. That's how much the people hated the rule that they were under, has leaked out. It's affected Turkey. It's affected Europe. And now the world has to deal with the consequences of that. So at that point, by all means, go in. And you know what? We're not even going to make just that argument. Let's say that you had a completely isolated domestic situation, but it was completely fucked up on a humanitarian level. Oh, you can't do anything about that. They didn't do anything to you. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Some of us actually not only have convictions and principles, but believe in applying them universally. Amazingly enough, she should be that way too, because that's what the Bible tells her to believe. But you're right, Kevin. You're right to bring up that they're hypocrites on that they don't actually follow through on that. They gave up the criticism of the rich a long time ago, or the criticism of greed or whatever, a long time ago. You're called to make, like, that's amazing. So you're a Christian nationalist. You're called to make converts of all nations, but you're going to go hide it in your home. Oh no, the world is scary.
Yeah.
Now don't go make converts of all nations, because that's stupid. But other than that, no, that's a great way. You should be involved in the world, because the world is going to be involved with you.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So the whole progressive line about Bush is, oh, he invaded Iraq and Afghanistan on a crusade for Christianity. And these guys would say, yeah, he's a neocon ghoul. You'd think they would be like based, but apparently not. You think that they
used to say that though. That's the meme. She used to say that. She used to be like an intern for Paul Ryan and all that. They used to say that. But then you get someone like Trump comes along and everybody has to change their tune. And even people like Tucker Carlson. You go back to the time of the Iraq War. You think Tucker Carlson was anti-war? No,
he was friends with Bill Kristol. We got Minecraft here. He says the straw man I am listening to is amazing. Can you explain how we're straw manning her? We're literally watching her entire video.
Maybe he's talking about her. That makes sense.
No, he's defending her in chat though. He's defending her in chat.
She's straw manning Dick Cheney and George Bush. So
Wait,
I'm
I
just
need to
gonna
get
go
out
with
my
that.
wheelhouse more often. I was on Hippy Dippy last night, and like all those guys are
No,
anti-war.
we talk to the anti-interventionists all the time. It's
Yeah.
It's 20. It's nonstop, and we listen to them
They're
every week.
everywhere, dude. Like they're a barrage of cringe. They're a cavalcade of cringe. They keep on coming and posting cringe, trying to like look, I've got like almost 30 debates on my channel. Almost all those are centered around foreign policy with anti-war people. So
That's amazing. Like we've talked about that before too. Like, oh, you guys need to like actually, engage with the other side. It's like, what?
have a debate me, bro. I was criticized by CTV last night for being a debate me bro. He's like, oh you debate me bros. It's like, yeah, I am a debate me bro. Debate me. Like
we've heard what they have to say. It's not compelling.
Yes, it's not compelling at all. They need to try better. So
boots on the ground in foreign countries. Don't you think that's a little bit more dangerous than merely someone talking on the internet? They usually don't have a good response to that. But anyway,
dangerous.
We have an interesting poll here.
It's so dangerous.
I do have a good response for that. Boots on the ground. Like, we're not in Germany. We're not fighting there. It's actually an economic benefit to our soldiers there and us for us being in Germany. For us being in Korea, same thing. It's an economic benefit because we get products out of Korea. We get products out of Germany because we can just be a presence there, be a deterrent, because Russia's not going to invade Germany while we have troops there. North Korea is not going to invade South Korea if we have troops there. The biggest deterrent in the world is the United States military. And us having troops there allows us to have these trade partners. It allows us to get products from Korea or get products from Germany. Just because we have troops there, boots on the ground. It's not a war. It's just having troops there because Russia, for all their military excursions, does not want to get in a one-on-one fight with the United States. Neither does North Korea right now. And so having troops there helps us economically.
Absolutely. I'm, again, every 5 seconds with her, I'm amazed by what she just said there. So she took these hypothetical people we don't even know, criticizing her, saying, oh, you're Canadian, so why are you talking about American politics? Why are you talking about British politics? And she says, well, how about this completely non sequitur response? Why do we have neocons and neolibs sending my boys over to the Middle East? That sounds a little bit more dangerous than just me talking, right? And then she said, well, and when I say that, they usually don't have a response. What would be the proper response to that except for a face palm? Like, it's a total, there's no connection. It's so stupid. What is the point? What are you trying to say? Of course that's more dangerous. Lauren?
So,
duh.
So we're only halfway through the video. I want to try to get through this. So.
No, we can never make it through.
Fact that the America First or the nationalist populist movement is growing and that people are tired of all of this.
Well, they're still fringe and cringe. Like, they're nowhere near the majority of people. She's about to bring out some polls, though. So let's take a look at this.
This world police BS. This is from Mediaite. They say, wait, what? 1/3 of Americans aren't convinced we should have sent troops to fight World War II.
So those people are what we call mentally challenged.
Shit. World War II, we were bombed in Pearl Harbor.
No.
We should.
But Jäger, you're missing it. It was America's fault. America asked for it because America refused to continue to do business with Japan. So what was Japan supposed to do? Of course they were going to bomb America. It's sovereignty for thee, but not for me. That's their attitude. They don't actually give a shit about American sovereignty. So.
But holy fuck, I've never seen this on the right. Like, kind of the mainstream.
No, the rights. Seriously, they're going down the abyss, dude. They're going down the abyss of fifth columnary, communist apologetics at this point.
Because Glenn Beck, like, hate him or like him, I don't care for him. But he's at least like a conservative, kind of a Reagan conservative.
Yeah.
She's on his network spewing this.
No, she's not there
weird shit.
anymore. Mycroft says she doesn't work for the Blaze anymore. So they must have let her go over this shit, is what I'm guessing.
I'd imagine so.
That's pretty funny.
I haven't really seen this kind of stuff from the Blaze before. Like, the Blaze isn't hawkish or anything, but they're kind of like a Ben Shapiro sort of style network. But this shit is fucking garbage. So this shit basically would be treason. I mean, if you oppose retaliation against Japan killed 2,500 Americans. She would oppose avenging them. She would say that avenging them is imperialism. She sounds like Noam Chomsky. She sounds like a fucking Marxist. Ooh, it's American empire. Okay, Mycroft's saying she quit. Okay, so.
Yeah, Mycroft's a lol cow, so who cares?
Bloodhouse says the Blaze. That reminds me of Glenn Beck calling George W. Bush a globalist progressive. I never saw that clip. Glenn Beck has kind of gone in the Charlie Kirk direction with like the chalkboards and the conspiracies and crossing like, ooh, like George Soros and this. And he's like, he's not Alex Jones, but he's trying to be like Alex Jones. And it's kind of sad.
Go all the way, man. Don't go half crazy. Go full crazy.
Same goes for Charlie Kirk too. Just embrace it. You know, give Alex Jones a run for his money. Because right now Alex Jones has gone full Alex Jones. So he's got the monopoly on that right now.
Apparently there was this YouGov poll, which we will be looking at in greater detail, that after Memorial Day, or I guess in response to Memorial Day, asked citizens about their thoughts on things like World War I, World War II, Middle East wars, etc., asking them, do you think we should have intervened? And responses are pretty split on things like the Middle East and Vietnam War, but, you know, we classically think if there was ever one war where it was the moral thing to intervene, it would be World War II, you know, because of the genocide, etc.
That's
completely... No, nobody knew nobody knew about the Holocaust when America entered the war. The entrance into the war was because Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. You dum-dum.
This is completely artificial. And we've talked about this too. This meme that World War II was the one justified moral war. By what metric? How have you come to that conclusion? For what
I guess the Holocaust. Even though nobody knew about the Holocaust when America entered into the war against Hitler and Japan.
Yeah, I wonder if there were genocides happening in other places that we happen to intervene in. Would that make those justified? It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. You could apply the reasons why that was a justified war to every other intervention, basically, for the most part, that we've been involved in, because a lot of them follow a pretty similar pattern. Even the First World War, oh no, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people at her camp don't like that. Lauren Southern didn't like that. It's a big problem, except we're allies with certain nations. Oh, and then they get attacked. Maybe we should support them. Kind of like with World War II. And then they always go back. There was that one video we reviewed from Kyle about, oh, it was moral because it was defensive because of Pearl Harbor. We should have been involved more in a more active capacity before Pearl Harbor. You understand that, right? You understand that. So when we're in a situation, and thankfully the world has evolved since then. So if Great Britain was attacked, that means we're attacked. We're under attack at that point. Because we don't just see ourselves as these. That is what nationalism does to you. That's what it does to your brain. It makes you see yourself not as a citizen of the world at large. No, we're just individual nations. And we're fending for ourselves. People realized decades ago that wasn't a very good way of going about things. And that it left you prone to attacks from smarter adversaries who were more than willing to gang up against you. more than willing to form an empire against you. That's not how the adversaries of the West or America think. They don't think of themselves. Do you think Putin's sitting at home like, I really want to isolate myself today? The only person you could really say that about is Kim Jong-un, because he has to. But even he's doing some secret trading with not even secret, but with various nations and especially with China. So even he has connections. And if he establishes more power for himself, especially a bigger nuclear arsenal, he'll network even more. He'll make even more friends around the world, I'm sure. Or slave states, whatever you want to call them these days. That's the problem. This is why isolationism will fail. Because it is not a sufficient response to the empire building of the US's adversaries. Not at all. That's why we're a superpower. That's why we have NATO. That's why something like even the EU exists. Say what you will about it. To protect them economically. For fuck's sake, man.
Etc. I don't need to explain what happened during World War II, but apparently not everybody is convinced. Like this article breaks down, while 68% of people said it wasn't a mistake to send troops to fight World War II, 14% said it was, and an additional 18% weren't sure. It says skepticism was highest among respondents between the ages of 30 to 44, of whom a majority were either opposed to or unsure of sending troops to fight in World War II. So there are a couple things that I want to break down here. Number one, I think when it comes to World War II, so often we think of what was happening in Europe, but it is important to point out that the reason why the US actually got involved in World War II was after Pearl Harbor and the Japanese bombing that happened. And, World War II wasn't just being fought in Europe, it was also being fought in Asia Pacific. So you had a lot of Navy people and Marines who were actually fighting the Japanese, not the Nazis. This is really interesting though, because I think some people might look at these numbers and say, well, those people just wanted Jewish people to die or Russians to die. No, I don't think that's accurate. I think there are a growing number of people who maybe look at all wars, including World War II, and ask, was it worth the risk to American life?
So if you don't retaliate when somebody attacks you, then everybody can attack you and get away with it. You're welcoming more murder of your own people. Duh. That's how deterrence works. She's so stupid.
This is kind of amazing to me because, okay, fine. For the sake of devil's advocacy, we understand that there were concerns at the time. Of course, you would have to dedicate a lot of men to such an effort. And a lot of people were inevitably going to die. That was unavoidable. It's not like today where our casualties are barely a blip on the radar. No, that was a serious war that cost millions of lives. But here's the thing. You can't ignore a problem like that. You absolutely can't ignore a problem like that. You can't say, oh, well, let's just sacrifice all of Europe and all of Asia. And I'm sure they won't come for us next. Why wouldn't they come for you? You defeated them in the last war. Of course they're going to come for you. They hate you. Oh, and if they won't directly just slaughter you, they'll find other ways to subjugate you and get you under their thumb. And then you'll basically be in the same situation. That's utterly absurd to me that anyone thinks they could have sat them one out. No, not at all. Not at all. Is that to say that there weren't, personal concerns about sending people over to fight? Of course not. But sometimes you have to look at these problems from a bigger picture perspective. You can't say, oh, because it's completely asinine to say, oh, I'm concerned about sending over people to die. We're all going to die if you don't fight this war. Do you understand that? We will all die, or at the very least, we'll all be enslaved under global fascism in a 1,000-year Reich. Oh, but apparently that's okay.
lives and all of the American people who did die? Was it even our responsibility to intervene? Was it even our right to intervene? And again, I think World War II is more complicated than...
See, again, it's sovereignty for Japan, not sovereignty for America.
Did we have a right to intervene? You couldn't make it up, man.
No. But you got to understand, what were the first people saying at the time? They were saying Hitler's our friend. Why not peace? They were saying that it's wrong that these politicians don't have any right to send anybody to war. That's what they were saying. And guess what? If they had their way, there would be no free world right now. America wouldn't even exist right now. Like, it wouldn't even take that long. America would have been buried within, a couple decades if the Soviets, Japan, Hitler took over the world, basically, and then came for America. It wouldn't have worked out. Germany had pretty advanced tech. It was definitely in the interest of everybody to get rid of Germany as soon as possible and get them under American dominance, basically. It's the sort of thing that, like, the thing that's amazing about this is that these people will own the deplorables label. They'll own basically being called, all kinds of names and stuff, but yet they still try to brand themselves as patriots. Why don't they just own the fifth column label? Why don't they just own the sedition label and say, yes, we don't like America. We prefer North Korea or China or Russia or Turkey or wherever the hell else, because they're the opposite of patriots. Like, so these people, like, it's amazing because they want to own the libs. They want to own the SJWs. They want to own the hippies, all that kind of stuff. These people think the Vietnam War was wrong to fight. So these people are basically conservative hippies, is what they are.
It was wrong because it was somewhere else, man, and the money could have gone here.
It should have been here. It should have been here. They should have been bombing California, man. That's what should have happened.
Somebody's listening to that, like, yes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, there's another fifth column. I'm going to subscribe to his channel, and then they see my other videos, and they're like, oh wait, he was memeing. This guy's an actual war hawk. Uh-oh. Like, I had some dude who's a fan of Aaron Monte who saw my clip on Aaron Monte versus Anna Kasparian, and he said, wait, are you pro-hawk? That's what he asked, because he said that the ending of my video gave the impression that I was pro-hawk, and I responded by saying, I'm not pro-hawk, I'm a war hawk. Like, I'm not, like, I am a hawk. And I said, welcome to Superpower Broadcasting, the home of the Hawks. Subscribe for daily premieres and live streams. And he never got back to me, but he's a big fan of Aaron Mate. He was shocked to even see that there's a YouTube channel that's hawkish, that he had to ask if we were pro-hawk. He didn't even ask me if I was a hawk, because to him, being a hawk doesn't even exist. These people are crazy. They live in a bubble. So.
Yeah, that's my rebuttal to Mycroft. Tell your boys to engage with our worldview every now and then, because they don't talk to people like us. They don't. They don't even think we exist. They think we're like a tall tale. What? Yeah. A war hawk?
So,
meanwhile, we engage with them all the time.
So here's the thing about Lauren Chen. If the United States would not have gotten involved in World War II, she would have never been born. She was born in Hong Kong, which Japan took over. So if the United States would not have went to war with Japan, Japan would have still ruled China. Therefore, with the Japanese treatment of the Chinese people, she would have never been born.
Oh, no, for sure. You want to talk about genocides? Look at what they did to China. They killed 20 million Chinese people. They would have contests where they would compete, different soldiers, to see how many Chinese civilians they could kill in a day. Their entire thing was a war crime. Like, every minute that they were there was, it was just, how many war crimes can we do? Let's try to get a high score than the Germans, basically. And so, yeah.
Butterfly effect. She would have never been born if the United States wouldn't have been involved.
No, but these people, think about this. These people would agree with Sean and Shuanhead and Voosh and all these radical leftists. They would agree with them that it was wrong to nuke Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, they're basically, as I've said it before, they're right-wing hippies. That's what they are. They're just hippies with, a blue tie, basically, is what they are. So
yeah, only hippies on this issue though. Like,
or I guess in America they'd have a red tie. They're Republicans, but at least here
exactly.
they're
It's a little confusing that way.
But yeah, she's in Canada, so the Conservative Party here is blue. But yeah. Anyway.
Many people maybe realize because the US was attacked directly by Japan, but I want to look at this age breakdown. So as that article mentioned, and we're looking at the YouGov poll directly here, the people who are most likely to say that yes, it was a mistake to send troops into World War II were those between the ages of 30 to 44. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that younger people aged 18 to 29 were in support of it. If you actually look at the numbers, 60% did say that no, it wasn't a mistake. 15% said that yes, but a whopping 26% said they weren't sure. So I don't think the younger generation is necessarily more supportive of the troop intervention in World War II. It's just that maybe they're a little bit more skeptical of it, or
they've been getting their history from Michael Moore and their news from Russia Today. And we've got a huge problem with fifth column hacks brainwashing our youth. So,
well, there's also an issue with polls because you want to get a representative sample, which in a country of 327 million people, 50 states, a lot of acres of landmass, it is very difficult to get a representative sample of the United States because you really have 50% of the, or I should say 49% of the country votes Republican, 51% votes Democrat, but not even those are all the same. There's going to be different issues, so it's very difficult to get an accurate poll. And if you want accurate polls, look at polls after elections, because people go there, they vote, and you're getting the most honest interpretation. But some of these other polls, you'll see them all the time, like, oh, 80% of Americans believe this. And it's like, they can't even agree on who's president. Like, some of these polls, I think, are skewed a little bit, either by questions or by selecting different people to get a desired answer. So you have to be skeptical when people like, oh, the polls say this, the polls say this. Well, if the polls do not match up to the elections, then they're meaningless.
Oh no, we've seen that with, I'm trying to remember the exact poll, but there was a poll that was commonly cited by progressives that was in favor of Medicare for all, tried to portray the majority of Americans being in favor of Medicare for all. But they found that when they actually added caveats and explained the true implications of what a Medicare for all policy would look like, that went down. So you can very easily mislead the base that you're polling.
That was on Super Tuesday.
There you go.
I remember reading that, like, Super Tuesday, most people voted saying, hey, Medicare for all is a good idea. When they broke it down policy by policy, it was the public option that was more popular than that. Then the majority of voters on the Democratic side stated their primary issue was healthcare, and they voted for Biden for healthcare.
There you go.
So yeah, it's one of the interesting things about polling, because there's so much data out there, but you just have to be careful. People are like, oh, the polls say this, the polls say that. It's like, well, let's see if it translates into actual elections. If it doesn't, then the polls are wrong. Because if it doesn't translate to the elections, then you're just wasting your time.
They don't know the history of World War II, which, looking at the current education system, I think may well be the case. And looking at this poll, it also breaks respondents down into things like income level, region, as well as race. And Black people and Hispanic people are a lot more likely to say that it was a mistake for people to be sent into World War II, which I think is very interesting. And there's also a big regional divide. People in the West are way more likely than people in the Midwest to support putting troops into World War II, 19% versus 9%. And even though a lot of people might look at this whole non-intervention stance as more of a right-wing dissident America First policy position, the truth is that, remember, there are a lot of anti-war leftists out there as well. And liberal.
Yeah, she's doing the meme. This is the same meme from the Hippy Dippy show about a month ago, where Joe Lewis said, look at this war hawk here referring to me. He's even got me agreeing with Rob Noor, who's like this really right-wing Trump guy. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not impressive. Like, yeah, that's horseshoe theory. The right and the left, the far right and the far left, they both hate America. They're both anti-war, right? So
it's kind of amazing to me that she feels the need to say, like, is her audience really that dumb that she needs to say, by the way, guys, there's some people on the left who are against war too. Yeah.
Most anti-war people are left-wing, just for the record. Most hawks are still conservative. So her side is a smaller minority. Most of these people saying that Hiroshima was bad and Vietnam was bad and everything are definitely left-wing progressives. So they're her allies. It's like, that's
yes.
It.
Which
like those
makes...
people she's talking about in the polling, if they were to break down, you know, the way they have here, party ID, Republican or Democrat, let's take a look at that. So do you think the United States made a mistake sending troops to fight in the following wars? It doesn't have specific wars, but if you say yes, let's just look here. Democrats 19, Republicans 13, and then no, 65, 77. You can see here it's mostly Democrats. It's, in other words, progressives that see it as a mistake. So when we look at the mistake, yes, and skew over to ideology, libs 19%, moderates 13%, conservatives 10%. In other words, oh, we lost Reece for a second. Okay. In other words, 2/3 of the anti-war crowd there is very clearly progressives. So that's who her camp is. Those are her bedfellows. Those are the people in her community. That's who she's surrounding herself with and everything. And she just mentions them as a footnote. No, we're just going all over the polling here, Reece. Twice as many people who identified as liberal out of those three are skeptical and say it was a mistake to send it to go into the war versus conservatives. So she's like, oh, well, you know, and there's some people that are on the left too that agree with us. Most of the people that agree with you are on the left for her. So.
Which is incredibly funny because most of Fox News content is owning the libs, owning the left.
Yes, but they also have to appease Trump, so they have to be anti-war. You know, it's embarrassing. So, but you can still see their rhetoric on Iran was consistently decent throughout the Trump era. So
that was the party line. So you're going to go along with that, basically.
Liberals are a lot more likely than conservatives actually to say that yes, it was a mistake to send troops into World War II. 19% of liberals say this, 19% of Democrats versus only 13% of Republicans and 10% of conservatives. And I know that World War II remains one of the most politically charged.
With that data, like they're showing you, oh well, this percentage. Well, an overwhelming majority, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, said it was justified. She's like, oh, well, 10%, 9%, whatever percent, but it's all less than 20%. So majority of Americans supported it. Like, it's a manipulation of data to say, well, oh, well, these numbers are bigger. But if you did the same data and said, well, this many people, 87% supported it or 80% supported it, you get the bigger number. She's just manipulating data to try to make her point.
Well, you see, Jäger, the premise of her video is not that they're the majority, but just that they're there. They exist. There's people who think like this. They're out there somewhere.
Hey, Reece,
and that's good enough.
Hey, Reece, it's like that Oreo tweet.
Oh, yeah, Oreos exist.
Yeah, fifth columns exist.
Oreo needs to come out with a new brand at that point.
Yeah, fifth columns exist. Okay.
We're looking at one.
Yep. Oh yeah, and StreamYard doesn't like her very much. Okay, let's go. Come on.
Republicans and 10% of conservatives. And I know that World War II remains one of the most politically charged topics out there, but this piece has me wondering, what do you all think about American intervention in World War II? Is that something that you support? Do you maybe support?
But it's not a debate. It had to happen.
Let's have a robust debate.
No. I don't even like the characterize intervention. No. It was a retaliation. Like, it was a retaliation. Even a lot of the libertarians say that you have a right to self-defense. So, unbelievable. You have a right to self-defense. You have a right to retaliate. That's not even like a neocon argument. But she would characterize that as a neocon argument. So
I haven't seen this video. So she may address this later, but I find it very sus.
It's almost over. There's like 7 seconds left, 8 seconds.
Okay. Well, then this point really stands. It's very sus to me that she's not giving her opinion on that. I always hate that. I always hate when they're like, that is such. That's the oldest trick in the book, where somebody's leading you on. They're leaving a little breadcrumb trail. Hey, audience, what do you think about this? Really? I don't actually care what the audience thinks about this, because her audience is dumb as fuck. I care what you think about this, because you actually have influence. But you're just you framing it this way, like there's even a debate, like you said, Kevin. Very questionable, very sus, and leads me to believe that the answer might be something a little controversial. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm being unfair. She's a self-described non-interventionist, though. I'm probably not that far off the money. Audience, what do you think? Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, let's just have them chatter about it. I'm sure they'll come to the right conclusion. Have you ever seen a YouTube comment section? How long after this video was posted did it take for the comments to devolve into, actually, Hitler would have been a great friend?
Yeah, that's
he would have been a great friend. He was just upholding Christian values. Come on.
Fighting against Japan, but not Germany. I want to hear it
That's
from you. That's pretty
retarded.
much it for now.
Oh wait, we can't say that.
Germany declared war on us.
Yeah, no. Germany declared war on America, but you know what the libertarians, I've talked to a few libertarians about that. You know what they said? They said that America didn't have to entertain the declaration of war because Germany didn't really have the capability to make good on it. That's what they said.
Well,
even though Germany did send some vessels out in to interrupt American shipping lanes and American allies, and
they sunk American ships.
And that too, and that's a little inconvenient. But these are the same people that say that you should just let the Lusitania go, bro. So,
yeah, amazingly enough, if you are attacked by a nation, yeah, you might have to fight the allies of that nation. Especially if they're attacking your allies. Like what? So, we should have just fought Japan, but not Germany. Okay.
So, tying this back actually to 9/11, Al Qaeda declared war in the United States in about the early 90s, and we didn't really take them seriously. And then 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
Not saying that. You know that, but at the same time, if you don't take a threat seriously, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. Like right now, if we don't take cybersecurity seriously, it's going to come back and bite us in the ass. Like we get cyber attacks by China, Russia, random trolls every day. If we don't take those seriously, it's going to bite us in the ass. Same thing with Germany. Germany, if they would have conquered the UK, the Russian army was in disarray. If they could have not been stopped by winter or being, I guess, running out of resources, like they would have turned on us as well. We could have had an opportunity to stop them and end the war. But if we had just said, well, they declared war on us, we're not going to worry about them, then you open up the door for a whole realm of possibilities, and not all of them are going to be good.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Anyway, this video's almost done. There's like 2 seconds left.
As always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.
There you
Okay.
go. So that took forever.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired right now. We're almost at the 4-hour mark. If there's something super quick, maybe we could get through that. Otherwise,
Yeah, with us, most likely not.
I'm just gonna look through the times of these videos.
That's not a good way to judge it usually.
Yeah, it took us about 2 hours to get through Medhurst.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm fine ending it there.
Yeah,
Then
we'll
we
have to end
get-
it there.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is Medhurst, so
So yeah.
Yeah, no, he
so
took it.
Jäger, thanks for coming on. And where can the people find you?
I'm on Twitter. I shit post on occasion. I'm on YouTube. You can find me at Jäger de Pato on both platforms.
Very big.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on, my dude, and love to have you on again sometime. And yeah, thank you to everyone who was watching. You know, if you caught the whole thing or stuck around for 5 minutes, we appreciate it. And any submissions, you can send them to Kevin on Twitter, or you could send them to myself. We're working on getting an email of some sort, some kind of submission system. So we should hopefully have that so we can announce it on the next episode. We've been talking about that. Just been a bit of a busy week. But yeah, of course, if you have any cringe foreign policy takes, love you. I know you love me. Look, everybody loves me. They just don't all admit it. But that is what it is. If you have any cringe foreign policy submissions, just send them in, and we'll give them a look-see, because that's what we do around these parts.
Yep. And as always, if you want to support what I do, you can check me out over on Ko-Fi, PayPal, and Patreon. And once we hit 500 a month over on Patreon, we'll have 3 videos a day instead of 2. And be sure to subscribe as well if you haven't done so yet. Mostly cover foreign policy, but I'm looking at branching out to talk about economics and social issues as well more often. And if you haven't done so yet, watch my appearance over on the Hippy Dippy Roundtable on Dylan Burns' Twitch channel. So with that, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. So take care and stay based, everybody.